Sisters, teachers, boys and girls. Well, that's what I heard at St. Joe's. Are we ready? Caesar. Good evening, everyone. We are on the record. This is a caucus of the Jersey City Municipal Council.
She's not here.
Surprisingly enough, it's not April anymore. May emerged a couple of days ago, but it's May 20th. We had a 5:30 p.m. scheduled start. It's 5:43 p.m. President roll call, Councilperson Ridley.
Present.
Prinzeri.
Here.
Bajano.
Here.
Yun.
Here.
Solomon. Here. Robinson.
Not here yet.
He's absent. Rivera. Here. Councilperson Waterman is absent. President.
Here.
We have all seven we have 7 of the 9 in attendance. Should anyone arrive, I'll note their arrival. Take it away, Council President.
Can I say something before we start?
Give me 1 second before you start, okay? Is Councilman Robinson expected today? Yes, okay. Great. Does it have to do with Nick Taylor?
Nick Taylor is one thing, but
Okay.
that's not recommending.
Okay.
We don't talk about personnel at caucuses.
We're not
No, we're not talking about personnel.
Nick
You
is
wanted
good.
Nick Taylor to talk about something.
No, I'm talking about, I'm getting sick and tired, and I want the rest of the council to know about it. And a lot of people in the city get sick and tired of what's going on with the planning in the city. The redevelopment being run by people that don't live here, number one. They don't care about our communities. And then we have the planning board, which just votes everything yes. We have a problem up on Newark Avenue, 536 units of housing being built, no parking. You can't put 536 units of housing on Newark Avenue. And I think it's a disgrace. I think the 2060 plan has to be changed, and we gotta look at it and make some serious changes. Because the development, there's almost 12,000 units of housing coming to Journal Square, and where the heck are they gonna put them? And people are getting kicked off. We had a huge meeting at the Hilltop, and I'm telling you, it's becoming a major issue. It's spreading into Ward D, it's gonna spread into B, because they're gonna start destroying that area down there and A. And something has gotta be done, and nobody in the city seems to give a damn.
And I add to Councilman
Okay,
James.
so we're going to have a number of planning issues on the agenda tonight, so there'll be plenty of opportunity to,
Yeah,
She's gonna echo it.
yeah.
Get control.
it's not an
Take
echo.
control.
No. How did you know before I say I'm echoing?
Okay, let's
Tell
all,
me, Robert.
We have an agenda.
Tell me, how do you know that I'm gonna echo what he said?
let's,
I mean, we gotta make it clear before we start it. How the hell do you know that I'm gonna echo what he said? Really? Tell me first.
Councilman Yun, please, let's get back to our agenda.
So now, I'm gonna add to what he said. Councilman Richie was elected 2013. He asked, amend Journal Square 2060 regarding the parking. But still, almost 4 years. 4 years? 2013.
Yeah, okay.
19, 6
So-
years.
so
still we go nowhere.
Okay, we're going to have a number of planning items on the agenda. So this is what I'm going to say, Councilman. So you have tools at your disposal as council members. As Councilman Solomon did at the previous meeting, he put forward a request for the instructing the planning board to revisit the, which plan was that? The Jersey Avenue, I think it was, redevelopment plan? Light rail redevelopment plan. You have the same authority and powers to be able to do the same. If you want to put that instruction to the planning board, you can instruct the planning board to revisit the redevelopment plan for Journal Square. Any member of the city council can do that for any redevelopment plan in the
It took 3
city.
years to get part of that 2060 plan changed. Thank God for Anicia and Tanya, because they did it. But it took 3 years. We don't want to wait 3 years. They're destroying the communities up in the Heights and in the rest of the city here. And something has to be done.
Well, you have your authority, you have your powers. That's one of the few authorities and powers that the council people have to actually direct the planning board to take action and to review and to come back with recommendations on changing the redevelopment plan. You can certainly work with planning to do
I'll tell
that.
you right now.
I will happily back you up on that.
People
if
are
you want to make
breaking
that-
my back all
make that
day
request.
today, over the weekend, and I'm, and something's got to be done.
Okay. We're going to start with something not on the agenda, and at your request, Councilman Boggiano, bring up the Director of Zoning, Nick Taylor. Nick, can you join us up here? And then after Nick, I've got,
Some department directors.
yeah, so Stephanie, Peter Folgado, and Brian Weller, okay?
I asked Nick to be here because a couple of weeks ago, this is about the 10th person in the last couple of months. They buy a house here in Jersey City, they bought it several years ago, and then zoning, which legally has a right to, comes along and says you can't park there. It's an illegal driveway. The law has to be changed. We can allow a new two-family house to be built with 2 parking spots out, where they take up 2 spaces out in the street. But we can't allow people that have lived here for 30, 40 years have a parking space in front of their house. And it's wrong. And there's a lawsuit, which I think is going to the U.S. Supreme, it might be going up to the Supreme Court. $80,000 has been spent on it already. You're aware of that, right, Nick?
Yeah.
And something has to be done, and Nick agrees, I think, with me, so.
Councilman?
Well, we have a situation in Jersey City where there's no place to park a car, and people are buying homes under the impression that they have a legal parking space, and when a little research is done, after they close on the property, they learn that the space is not legal, and they get a violation from me, and I get hate mail and things like that. And I'm only enforcing the legislation that we currently have. So it's an argument that goes both ways. Some people think that people need to be allowed to park their car. Other people feel, well, we have way too many curb cuts as it is in the city, which is true. But to that I would say, why do we continue allowing 2-family houses on a 25 by 100 parcel to cut the curb? I mean, if we're going to stop making curb cuts, then we really need to start doing that. And if we're going to allow people who build new houses to have a curb cut, does it seem fair to deny people that have pre-existing houses, people that have been paying taxes possibly for decades, to not have a curb cut if they have adequate space to park a motor vehicle? So it's a complicated argument, but I think Rich is right. We need to start looking at it.
Okay.
Well, I think it's absolutely right as well. You know, we spoke about this not too long ago, Director, about it's possibly doing the same thing in Ward F. I talked to my other director right behind you about this same thing and told her that was important because what you said makes absolute sense. You know, you got people who've been paying taxes for decades, 20, 30, 40 years here in the city that have nowhere to park, that has enough space in front of their door, but then soon as someone gets a permit to build a brand new house, they're just afforded that curb cut right away, which really don't make sense to me. So if we're gonna stop it, we stop it all the way. If we don't, then we just move forward to, you know, let the people who have adequate space in front of their homes to have some curb cuts as well. I mean, I don't know how the rest of the council feel, but I feel that way because, you know, I have people, senior citizens, 50-year homeowners here in Jersey City that have to park 3 and 4 blocks away from their home while a brand new house come up right next door and they park right in front of their door and in the driveway.
It's not quite an apples to apples comparison. The new construction that's being built, the Bayonne box, right? We're talking about, right? Is that what we're talking about? So the Bayonne boxes that are built are garages, right? That people can not just they can park at the front, but technically they have to park in their garage, which is so they're not just have front yard parking, which is what I'm also hearing is being talked about is front yard parking, right? To legalize front yard parking for existing homes as opposed to for new construction. So it's not quite an apples to apples comparison around that. I would say, but I get the point around it. The converse could be said on the opposite side is that you could go in the opposite direction and ban the Bayonne box and allowing for more curb cuts throughout the city, right? You could go in the other direction as well, which has also been contemplated and talked about here in Jersey City as well. But, no one's kind of stepped out in front of that, and I'm not exactly, it's not my highest priority, frankly. If other folks want to take that on, have at it.
Committee. Look at the matter.
There's a bunch of committees right now.
I know.
I'm a little strained in my
You're
grasp.
on So I'm gonna talk about the committee issue later, but that really we look at the matter, you know. And also, I spoke with the HEG director about the setback. because the new construction, as we know, they actually outside investor bought the old house and knock it down, build a brand new, suddenly they have curb cut, parking driveway. Meantime, people who pay tax in this city 50, 60 years now because of age, they're time to need some kind of a parking space, and they're not allowed. So, one of the suggestions I made at HDC, maybe all new construction should have some extra setback. You know, whatever is the things, they're looking for parking garage first, one inside, and the outside, the curb cut, that driveway, probably make enough to park another car. Then we can put it actually accommodate 1, 2, 3, 4 cars, each new building. Today, only 2. So we gotta look into that matter as a setback issue about the all new construction, so they can create their own parking. But also another one, some house located curb, not the curb, I mean corner. Those kind of things from the corner crossroad to like a 25 foot away, not able to park the car. Those kind of houses located, they should be able to make actually curb cut, because anyhow nobody can park the space, so they're not taking away space on the street, but they can create the space for the inside. So those kind of things we look into matters. So if you look at the citywide, if we have 1,000 corner house, then we can create almost 1,000, not 4,000, maybe 800 parking space citywide. We can put it up there, let them put in the car inside. If they have a setback is enough to put the car. We gotta look into the matter also. You know, I've brought the issue to director of the HEDC many times. I think the HEDC should set up some teamwork, you know what I'm saying? Look into the matter also, okay?
I'll respond. I instructed city planning to do, they're working with the Heights actually, on an R1 pilot, and so that will address those issues. So I think it's a pilot because if it's successful, we can roll it out in other parts of the city, but that's something that they're working on. I would not say it's at the top of the list right now. Obviously, you have us working on a lot of stuff, but it is definitely in the list of items they're working on.
So can you assign some person, I know that just you said, it's not at the top of the top. So we went to many years, as you know. You in here 2 years already? I mentioned it 2 years ago, still is the bottom of the list. So if you...
Well, it's not the bottom, but I mean, there are...
Middle level?
It's probably somewhere in the middle. I let the city planning director talk about where it is in their priority list, but we can certainly continue to push it forward and work with the council on it.
So at least we create like 800 space, take a car from the street is a big help, all right?
Yeah, I think some of the solutions that we've been coming up with are pretty innovative and will look to maximize off-street parking but minimize curb cuts, and I think there are ways to do that.
That's one of the ways to do,
Yeah,
can do that.
they're working on it.
All right, good.
Okay?
Nick, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, Peter Folgado and Ryan are together, I understand? Yeah? Which item is it for both of you?
I would assume it's item 10, 30, 31, and 32.
We have 1035, that's 394 Central Avenue, right?
Yes, there's that 1035.
So you have 1031, 1032, and 1035. Am I correct, Brian?
That's correct.
1031?
So normally we try to get folks who have one item or two out of the way, but Brian has a personal concern that he needs to address, so we can accommodate him. So 10, 30, 31, 32, and 35, correct?
That's yours?
This is also Stephanie, which is
That's your department?
Everything that we buy for the buildings is as our architecture. As our architect, I should say.
So luckily, on these three resolutions, you are very familiar with the system because you got to actually experience it, which is a great way to go about it. Stephanie was very instrumental in setting that up for you, so you could experience the improvements prior to purchasing, which I think is a great idea. And so these three resolutions accomplish, correct me if I'm wrong, they accomplish exactly the system and the sound system that was displayed in the council chambers a few months ago.
Pull that mic closer to you. It's not a PA, but it'll help get a better record of the meeting. Thank you, George.
Sure, no problem.
So council members, you all were, some of you were exposed to it,
Yeah.
and my understanding is you're all very happy with it. I'm not personally exposed to it, I should say. But if you're happy, I'm happy. So,
Yeah, I was there
Yeah.
for one of the walkthroughs, and the sound was really good. You can hear it very well across the entire chamber, as well as up on the dais. Much better than what we've currently been working.
So can I start ask?
ask away.
Yeah, okay.
Councilman Young.
Yeah. So 30, 31, 32, we have, because of 2014, City Council approved that capital improvement dollars for the improve the audio sound system in the chamber. So now we waited for how many? It's almost 5 years. Finally, we can see that the purchase system. Now, I'd like to know there were 3 separate issues. One, speaker system. One, microphone system. The other one is a visual system, video system. There are 3 components is different. So now, first one, 1030 is more likely speaker system. But when we actually when they make a demonstration, actually chamber's room was empty. But now, when they empty the speaker system and when we crowd the speaker system, sound bounding can be different. So I want to make sure that they should have to demonstrate their speaker system not only while the chamber is empty, when the chamber is full of people, should we have some demonstration for their speaker system too. Not just instead of signing, contracting. I want to make sure that if we made a mistake years ago, I don't want to repeat the same mistake again. So can the company, can we demonstrate speaker system while the people in the room, not just 1, 2?
Council President, can I make one explanation? Brian's predecessor, went overseas to get a sound deadening device. In the back of the room, it was like a foam sheetrock. We put it on there, put special paint so it would be sound deadening, because we used to have these awful, ugly drapes in the council chambers. And he didn't like the finish on it, and he had someone put what we put on sheetrock or mud or whatever, spackle over thousands of dollars of materials that were supposed to make the acoustics of the room real good. He's gone. We're lucky to have Brian, and Brian's found the solution along with Stephanie.
So just
And
I want to
Denise, and I thank them all.
Can't you explain to us that, you know what I'm saying, when they have an empty hall and when they have crowd is a difference. So I want us to make sure this, yeah, okay, go ahead.
Stephanie on this?
Yeah, Stephanie, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to address that because,
Pull the chair up, and you can both
yeah.
sit. Pull the chair up, Brian. You can.
All right, so when a room is empty, that's when the sound is at its worst.
Okay,
Because there's nothing soft to absorb the sound waves.
okay,
So you heard the room at its worst.
okay,
When it's filled with people, it's going to be better.
okay.
I don't think we can set up a situation where we can have a council meeting and have a demo at the same time.
Can we have a technician here on the first night we have a meeting? We may fine tune it when we have 300 people like we did at the last meeting in the room.
I can ask for that, of course, sure.
Yes, please, okay, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
We support
because
to,
it's going to be a different situation, obviously. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that they'd be very open to making it sound as good as it can sound.
so reason Stephanie,
That's what
I'm
they do.
asking you that whatever you answer, after we spend the $40,000 speaker system, when the audience, we cannot hear, then all the response go to your side. But if the way Robert say that the technician come and make a presentation, when I ask the same question, he say, yes, we 100% guaranteed it's going to be well be done. Then if something we're not satisfied with this system, then the person have to come and fix that. So
I
Can
don't
we-
know how they would come and do a demo the way they did, which was it needed a controlled situation. They had to set it up, they had to, your meetings go on for 5-6 hours.
okay,
Right? We're not going to ask someone to stay here for 5-6 hours doing a demo. I don't think that's
fine.
appropriate.
Then demo. Okay, so just tell them that the technician come up, answer our question. Probably he has experience enough to know that in the empty room and the crowd room, how can sounds
You
bounce?
would like someone, before you approve this, and
Yes.
before it's approved at the next meeting?
Yes.
You want the guy who...
Thank you very much. It's the
gave
few
you the
answer.
speakers to come and present at the next caucus meeting?
Yes. So because reason why, we went for 4 years already.
But
So
you-
even though
I
delayed it
mean,
2 more weeks.
You heard this, you heard the system. You were so happy with this system.
Yes, but as I said, there was a room was empty.
Again, that's the worst case scenario.
You say worst case, but listen to me.
And the technician will say the same thing.
You know, I have
More
audio
bodies
system.
in the room, the more it
I have
affects the
audio
sound.
system. Even I buy that they are regulating electric because electric powers coming not always. So I'm very sensitive ears. You know what I'm saying? So please,
All right, can
if you have the crowd in the room, their body observes the sounds, then the speaker's power can be used, different powers have to be put out. So long story make short, instead of we back and forth, we went for 4 years already this project. Even though we went for another 2 more weeks, it doesn't hurt anybody. We just want to make sure to write, and all the questions we ask the technician, if he gives us some full explanation, then we based on, we can ask the accountability if we're not happy with that.
May I make a recommendation?
Yes.
Since the speakers are something that can be added, I make the recommendation that we move forward with the rest of the system, so we're not waiting on some of the other things
Yeah,
that come into
and also we
play.
went through
Okay,
this
so now,
already.
what
We
is the
did
plan?
tests, and
Okay.
We did the demos already, and from what we heard, it was well received, pun intended. So we would like to not have to keep doing demo after demo.
No.
with this vendor.
Listen to me. As I say, they make a demonstration about the speaker system at the chamber. At that time, the room was empty. Only 3-4 people, the council members, just hang around listening. But then when the speaker system, more important, when the room is a crowd, we never had the experience because there were 300 bodies inside room. The speakers' sounds can observe by each individual person. The sounds can be different what we hear.
So the reason the sound in that room is as bad as it is because the vibration against the walls, as Robert was saying, there's nothing to absorb it, and you have a dome. Architecturally, it's a nightmare. What these speakers do is they point down. So what happens is that the sound waves point towards the rug, which is what they were doing, which is a soft object as opposed to a hard wall. The more bodies you have in a room, the more absorption of the sound waves, the extra sound waves that are bouncing. The reason you can't hear anything in there is because there's a continual echo. It's an echo chamber. And the more people in there, the easier it is to hear. I think we've all experienced that.
And if we have the vendor fine tune it when we're actually doing a meeting, that probably will help us a great deal, Councilman.
Which
If I
you go?
could get him to do that, that would be wonderful.
Stephanie,
Again, I don't know that.
probably
that's
you remember that. I'm the person who bring up the issue. First time in the city hall, time to upgrade. Even I insisted we just set aside $100 million capital improvement. But now, last minute, we gotta make sure one more times, whatever we spend $100,000, spend right amount, right things, right equipment, in other words.
What I'm asking you for is if you're set and the rest of the council agrees that we should wait on the speakers, can we move forward with the other equipment so that we're not impacting
Okay, fine. So
all the
then-
other meeting information?
Okay, so in other words, there were 3. One is a speaker system, so you want me to hold the speaker, you like to hold the speaker system, then now, I see that the micro system, we have a problem too. It's not in the resolution. They include the micro system also, or what happened?
I don't understand what you're talking about. What's wrong?
Microphone system.
Microphone
Microphones,
system.
it's usually operator error. If the council is sitting at the microphone, at the table, and the microphone is over here, and you're talking over there, you're not going to hear me. Like, I'm not being heard right now on that video. They can't hear me because the microphone isn't at me. If you guys don't speak into the microphone, no one will hear you.
Okay, so thank you very much. So now, one of the complaints that people always say that we cannot hear because the council people don't know how to use the microphone. Fine. Then what we use a micro is maybe dynamic microphone system. Can we change a different system, the microphone system? That's what I'm asking now.
Well, I think we are upgrading the microphones, but they're going to be similar. They're gonna be similar to what's there. They're just gonna be, they'll work better with the system.
So now.
They're gonna be integrated with the system.
We should probably do it one piece at a time, just to make sure that,
So, please, you cannot fix that each individual councilman in the middle of the meeting, oh, you use your microsystem, the wrong way, you gotta close your mouth. Because our system, while we have dynamic microphone system, but if we use that different microphone system, even though your microphone don't hear you, even though you're not face, they can catch the sound.
So there are two kinds of mics.
Yes.
I mean, there are lots of different kinds of mics.
Yes.
Your microphone is pretty directional, and it responds to the sound coming out of
Okay,
your mouth.
where are we with this?
If we change the microphones and make them like the ones at this table, every single thing you say,
Right.
whether you're whispering to your neighbor,
Yes.
whether you're making a side comment that you don't want anybody to hear, will be on the record.
So this is what I'm saying. Even though you bring up the best speaker system, listen, let me finish it. This is we're talking $100,000 business. Even though we bring the best speaker system, if people use the microphone in a proper way, then speaker not going to pick a sound. That's what I'm saying. If you change the speaker system, then you have to consider microphone system also.
We are changing it, but we have to work within the limitations of your needs. We don't want.
Council members, when I see you leaning back like this, 2 feet from the mic, I can't hear you and I'm 6 feet away. Some of you turn your microphones off to have a soft conversation with a colleague. The microphones are not our problem right now. It's the lack of the proper usage or the proper materials that were covered over by a sheetrock component and not the proper tools. When the former architect saw waves in it, he ordered it all plastered over and killed about $40,000 worth of acoustic material that should have been in there to begin with. We had huge ugly drapes using as a sound barrier. I think we have to go all or nothing right in and start from there and fine tune the system from there.
Which ones is the administration moving forward? All of them? Or-
So now,
Yeah.
listen,
we can move forward with all of them, yeah.
look, another one I'm going to bring up the issue because now, it's not the personal,
I think we're moving
because
forward.
you know why? We waiting for 6 years to change the system. We gotta, this time we gotta put in the system right, so we don't have to worry about another 60 years. That's what I'm saying. So when you spend $100,000, it's not the real money, it's a lot of money. And then we gotta pay this $100,000 principal interest, our taxpayer. So we gotta make sure proper way to spend it. Now another one, we have, so always I said connect speaker system with the mic system. And another system we talk about the video. The resolution is very poor.
And that's the upgrade.
Yes.
We will have true high definition video. That is part of this upgrade.
Okay,
I
so
know, right?
two. Okay, now another one. When you do change, they gonna change it like the central control system by him, Robert.
We're moving the control system to the side so that the person who runs the meeting doesn't have to operate the video.
Okay, the next one, I'm gonna ask them. I know, sounds like I'm the pain of the neck, but I wanna just make sure that, thank you very much. Okay. Another one, is that every council member has a screen. Their resolution will be probably like a 200 by 300, very well pulled. Can we change that also screen in the council member?
That is also that's part of it.
That's part of the.
That is part of it.
In the,
And we're doing that as part of the paperless agenda. You're gonna get a new screen. Bernadette is here to tell you all about that. You'll have a higher resolution screen and council members that you'll be following along with the agenda. You'll be able to make notes on the pad. We're moving into the 20th century. 21st century, pardon me.
So now, if I move on based on your presentation, so the speaker system, you can make sure that the technician come in, sound technician coming. Maybe next councilman, can you explain additional?
Okay.
I will ask. I don't know what they will say. This is
You know
a
what?
little bit out of the ordinary. They don't
Listen,
normally do
Stefano,
this
I'm
sort
gonna
of
tell
thing.
you, if we give the $100,000 contract, if you have an excuse to not show up,
It's-
then we shouldn't give the contract to the company, period.
Okay, but it's not, the technician who does the sound system is separate from the video system. That's a separate thing. That's why it's in a separate resolution.
Whatever you like to do. So all the
Okay.
money-
If we put into stuff and weren't happy with it, is there any, sort of return ability?
Too late.
We don't pay.
If we put it in and we don't like it, what happens?
Is there anything written in the contract? Money back?
We don't pay until it's all installed, so we could theoretically withhold.
You know
payment
what,
until-
actually, Brian?
Yeah.
Business solution? Because we purchased it by specification. So once we pay based on the specification, even though we're not satisfied, sorry, too late.
Sir,
See-
we haven't paid for it yet. It hasn't yet been installed.
If we not pay, we can say that, oh, if we not say we're not gonna pay, can't you write on the contract like that?
They'll-
If we make a contract, if we City of Jersey, if we're not happy with the, any reason, not happy with that, we have a right to refuse the payment. If we put on the contract like this one, then I'm gonna support 120%. I like to see contract. Can't you do that like that? If you cannot do that, please take another extra weeks, make sure what we
These
want.
people are here to protect the city. All three of them are trying to make improvements, and our business administrator will protect us.
Robert, they protect. I never say they're not protect. I just want to protect.
Yeah,
Everybody want to protect
yeah,
the taxpayers,
we'll just take it
but
down.
we're gonna make sure that
Councilman.
we protect the right way.
Sure.
I can
Take it down.
certainly
We'll look into
ask.
it, we'll look into
You
it.
can-
Yeah. Lawyers.
It's not something I've asked before. I will.
Then law department, can we write a contract with this company? If we not set up the system, we have a right to refuse the payment?
Well,
Tell me.
is there criteria for not liking the system, or is it just I
Okay,
don't like
folks.
the system?
Right.
Is there criteria for
Can we
this?
let
I
them
mean,
install
how-
it first before we're dissatisfied?
Yeah, we'll look into that thing.
Let's let them install
All right.
it, and if we're dissatisfied,
Thank you, guys.
then we'll jump off that bridge when we get to it.
Other questions.
Brian, let me,
I'm sorry, if I can get my questions in before, mine are more pedantic than this. The account balances on this account, this capital account, can we get the balance on that? How much it started at, how much was spent down, and what the current balance is on this capital account? This is capital dollars, correct?
Yes, we'll get that.
then Brian, can I ask? Even though we're not satisfied with their system, installation plumbing costs us $63,000. So in other words, when we're not satisfied, maybe the company say, yes, we're going to replace with speaker system, but they're not going to replace for $63,000 for installation pouring cost too. So in other words, we're going to pay extra for their job.
Have confidence, Councilman.
It's not the confident because already over the how many was it? 6 years, we saw how they ripped our pocket taxpayer dollar by vendors many cases. So just want to make sure cautious, print the contract. If we're not satisfied system, they will reimburse the installation and the program cost also.
We're gonna look into it.
Yes, Brian, you are smart enough.
Okay, next item. Brian, you have 1035, right? Yes, 1035.
So we're all those are taken care of, 30, 31, and 32.
Yep.
We have our purchasing director here with Mr. Weller, and this is Z35, resolution authorizing 1035, a resolution authorizing a change order for a contract with Spartan Construction Incorporated for the 394 Central Avenue new fire escape and masonry repairs, project 2017-010 for the Department of Administration, Division of Architecture. So that's where we are renting to the United States Postal Service
Among other things, yes.
and have city offices, like Mr. Folgado. Why don't you come up, Mr. Folgado, sir?
Okay, so,
The
as
bed.
council may be aware, there's significant work being done in this recently acquired city building, otherwise known as the Parking Authority. And we have invested significant into the building to move a lot of divisions into the building and also stabilize the building, which is why we were doing the brick masonry pointing. However, it's turned into a little bit like Pandora's box on the north side of the building, and we've encountered significant structural issues that need to be addressed at the risk of losing the entire facade.
Brian, didn't we know this before we bought this building?
Architecture was not involved.
I know that,
Yeah.
but,
Well, to be honest, we did
over
hire-
10 years ago.
Yeah, we did hire structural engineers to help us put the drawings together, and they missed this structural issue also partially because it was totally encapsulated and covered from view. And although they anticipated lintel replacement, and that's in the contract, what was found just beneath the lintels was totally disintegrated, as you can see from the photos. Some of the metal is paper thin, you can push your thumb right through it, and it's actually supporting that whole facade. Fortunately, the other four sides of the building do not distribute and execute that same issue, but this backside does, and we're at a point now where I need to come to you and ask for the additional funds so that we can finalize and stabilize the building.
So where's this money coming from?
Capital improvement, right?
Buildings.
And so is it the same account that the original repairs are?
Yes.
Or is it a
Yes,
different account?
actually, when we put this project out to bid, we received good numbers, and there still is money available for this particular line item building.
Could I get similarly balances on all this and drawdowns and
Sure.
who the payments were to?
Councilman, if this had come in 2% lower, the council wouldn't even have to deal with this
Right.
issue. It
Okay.
would have been in contingency.
That's correct.
Anything else, council?
No, he provided very
Thank you,
good
gentlemen.
additional information for extra job.
Okay, next victim. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Mr. Bolgado.
You have resolution 17 and 36. Resolution 17 and 36. Mark also has some,
16-2 or no?
what else?
What is it?
16-2 or no?
What is it? Mark. Workers' comp. Workers' comp. What is it?
16, 17, and 36.
16?
Mark has some other matters he has to attend to.
What was it? I'm sorry, I missed it.
16, 17, and 36. Okay, item number 16 is a resolution authorizing the execution of a non-disclosure agreement between the City of Jersey City, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, and Health Cost Risk Management.
Yeah, so something we've been talking about a lot with health benefits management is the reality that healthcare costs the city, this year probably about $105 million the total city budget. And it's certainly been a priority of the BA and myself to try to work with our broker to come up with better ways for us to control our healthcare costs. We recently engaged a consultant to do a prescription drug audit, which we're hoping to provide the results of in the next couple of months. But this is another step in that direction. So Springbuck is a data analytics company, and what they do is they take the cumulative amount of all of our healthcare data, right? Everything that's happening for our workforce and our retirees, and says, what are your gaps in care, as they call it, right? So if we know that 75% of our employees don't get a physical, and that ultimately long-term results in problems that cost us a lot of money, they are able to then let us know, like, well, 75% of your employees don't get a physical. Maybe you need to do a marketing campaign to remind people on their birthday, go get your annual physical. So it allows us to even look from a department level right? So we can say in DPW, there's a big issue with diabetes, theoretically. And what we are able to do is then work with our wellness coach and say, let's do a diabetes outreach campaign at DPW that will help these employees better monitor their diabetes so that ultimately there's not long-term complications. So what it really allows us to do is move our health benefits management to a more 21st century view, a more strategic view, and instead of just coming up with campaigns that don't actually align with what's happening in the workforce, we can look at the data and determine we should do these kind of campaigns, this kind of outreach to help control healthcare costs long term. So that's what it's for.
Okay, questions on that, council members?
Some kind of program, right? What was it called the program you
So
did?
the Wellness Coaches
Yeah.
USA, So this works in conjunction with Wellness Coaches USA. So it allows them to really step up what their outreach is because it's driven by data now.
How much you pay for that program?
So technically, it's our broker, Acrisure, that pays wellness coaches. We don't pay them directly, the broker does.
There was such a thing as broker pay, actually. We not pay directly, probably indirectly.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? So how much they cost for that?
I don't know the exact number of what wellness coaches cost. I can find that out and get back to you. But the broker that we use, Acrisure, roughly costs about $550,000 a year.
How much?
$550,000.
$550,000.
To administer our entire healthcare prescription and medical for our current employees and for our retirees.
The reason I'm asking you, last time I asked them, we have a health ministry program many years, you know, even though we not paid, not directly by individual we pay, so that program, how much give us a positive impact, the health insurance cost. When we run this program, do we get any benefit from the insurance company, lower premium, you know, anything like that? Or just we create another data, something, discounts and never receive that, you know, report anyhow.
Okay, so I believe previously I did share the data from wellness coaches like last year, but I can share the data again with you if you want to see their analysis on how many employee interviews they do, how many healthcare reductions they have as a result of those interviews. I mean, one thing is we don't pay a premium, right? We're self-insured, so ultimately they would never tell us that we would get a lower premium because we just pay by whatever the employee incurs. That's what we pay. Right, so what they're sort of incentivized though to help us Acrisure, to help us come up with ways and think about ways for us to control our healthcare costs, right? Because that makes them a better broker for us. So I wouldn't say that they incentivize us. I think being self-insured, we incentivize ourselves, right? Because every time we're not taking action to even make our employees healthier or better control our costs, we pay for every dollar, you know, every cent we pay for. So this is just a step to allow us to just be more targeted in what we do from a healthcare management
So
standpoint.
how much your estimate cost will be?
So how this is played out is like this. They essentially charge roughly it's $2,600 per month. Okay, so the first 6 months of this contract is going to be completely covered by Springboard. Okay, for the first 6 months is just implementation, startup, data upload, things like that. The last 6 months of the contract will be split between the city and Acrisure, our broker. So we will be paying roughly $1,300 $1,300 a month for 6 months. So talking about like $8,000.
How much is it?
8,000.
80,000?
8,000.
8,100.
Is this related to this?
Well,
But where do you get the data?
Right, we really have a lot to get through tonight. It's,
City provide the data?
we have this offline. This can be part of the budget hearings. You can have offline conversations about this, I think. No disrespect to tenant councilman. It's just, we got a lot to get through here.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. All right. You want to go to the next one?
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's related. They're both essentially one is the non-disclosure agreement, and the second is the release that they require us to execute in order to engage.
Mark, let me just say something. Who
Yes, sir.
created this buyout program for?
Okay, can we finish this last item, then we'll get,
I thought he
you can ask that
finished.
question, okay? If we just go to this last item, 1036, okay?
So really quickly, that's just a change order for Express Scripts. And the reason why there's a larger amount that we ended up paying for our claims from January to March of this year is actually very simple. We had a pretty dramatic increase in the number of individual large claimants that we have in our health plan. Let's look at like 2018, for example. There were 4 people who had cumulative health claims over $125,000 at this point in the year, and this year there are 12. So there's an additional 1.1 million that we have expended this year versus last year for individual large claimants. So that's basically exactly the difference between the change order. That's why we're asking for another million.
So then why those things happen suddenly?
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of stuff that we're talking about and sort of healthcare management is one of the issues. A lot of these are chronic conditions, could be, whether it's diabetes, could be cancer, could be any number of sort of large expenditures when it comes to healthcare. They don't really know exactly now why the number tripled. It's just the people who are in the plan and just sort of what it panned out to be. But I think one of the ways we start talking about improving those numbers is looking at long-term wellness strategy, which is kind of what the other issue with Springbrook is.
I mean, Express Script, when you see all the prescription, they will know that this kind of prescription increase so much, they know automatically. The Jersey City government has a lot of diabetic new patients come up. Then we should know all those.
With your data analysis conducting, you should be able to pinpoint, I said pinpoint, but come up, figure out where whether it's retirees and so forth.
Right. I mean, that's obviously definitely something that we'd be able to do with the tool. Just being more targeted about what do we need to be focused on, right? Like if we know that it's diabetes, high blood pressure, especially let's say again, just pulling departments out like DPW and HEDC have big problems with high blood pressure, let's say, right? So we can go and do more things at HEDC about how do you make sure you're monitoring your blood pressure? How do you make sure that you're taking, your insulin and making sure that you have glucose strips and doing all those things that will help long term to ensure maintenance and prevent some of the costs that end up hitting us in a big way later on.
That was a hypothetical.
That was completely hypothetical.
Because it's city council.
Completely hypothetical, yes.
I never give to any city employee who make under $100,000. I only give to, give somebody an issue, make a person over $100,000, 6 figures. So, I'm wondering, that's not my.
So this increase is for anticipating expenditures?
It is not anticipated, it's for what was incurred so far this year, and the reason why there was such an increase is because there was a tripling in the number of those large individual claimants.
So we expect, if we go this way, we're going to have a $4.4 million more we're going to pay for Express Script for that.
Well, so this is the one difference, right? So we have stop loss insurance, right? So stop loss insurance comes into play whenever any individual claimant goes over $250,000. Stop loss insurance comes in and reimburses us for those expenses. So it's not like it's going to continue and just always get higher. It's just that we have to pay up until that first, $250,000, and then the insurance will reimburse us for the costs after that. So you should not anticipate that it's just going to keep, going up and never be reconciled.
Yeah, 16% increase is a lot.
No, I mean, it's a huge, I mean, again, we spoke to our broker, we're not exactly sure of the reason outside of just, that was just the people who are in the plan right now and what services they're getting. And, we're obviously going to keep monitoring it, but.
Similar to Council's question, do we have a sense of how this affects the sort of proposed budget? Maybe it's just an extra million, do we have a projection for the rest of the plan?
Well, I think once again, like the stop loss insurance is going to come in and cover, so there's not going to be sort of that continuous growth that's going to really, really impact it in a huge way. Like looking back at 2018 to now, we're only about 4% higher overall than we were in 2018 in terms of our prescription claims. So I don't know, we have to keep monitoring it. I think probably halfway through the year we'll have a better idea of what it's going to look like long term. But I'm not, our broker did not anticipate making any major adjustments in the budget as of now. But that's again because
so what was proposed in the current budget
should still remain.
Where in the budget is it? Where does it reside? This account?
In the health benefits, I think under administration, but it's the health benefits account. All the different.
I looked under health benefits. I didn't see.
Uncategorized.
It's under administration. It's not
under administration. Under whose office?
Well, I mean, technically, for budgetary purposes, the health benefits expenses are housed under administration, but
But under the administrator's office, or?
it's under the Department of Administration.
I don't remember the exact line.
Yeah.
It's on the-
No, it's a separate. No, it's separate.
Can you, post a meeting, just point me to that
Yeah.
place marker in the budget book, so I get an idea. Thank you. Any other questions, council?
No, just you're gonna make a keep an eye.
Thank you.
You know.
Thank you. So I'm going to try to get through a bunch of folks really fast here. Doug has 33. Doug Carlucci, is he here?
He just stepped out.
Okay. You snooze, you lose. Andrew Vicio has, I guess it's ordinance.
Andrew.
Andrew here?
Yeah, he's right here.
What do you have, Andrew? An ordinance or resolution?
Ordinance number 3.
Ordinance 3. It's an ordinance supplementing chapter 332, prohibiting the right turn at red signal, westbound Jefferson Avenue, westbound Summit Avenue, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. School days. Okay, folks?
As the council president said, this ordinance establishes no right turn on red at the intersection of Summit Avenue and Jefferson Avenue, directly opposite the OEM building, for the westbound movement turning right to northbound Summit Avenue.
Any questions?
No?
None.
Andrew,
Just say thank you.
Who brought that up? I know the intersection well. It's clear vision when, when you're looking down south.
It was a request we received through C-Click-Fix.
From who?
C-Click-Fix, the online resident feedback system.
I don't think there's ever been an accident there. You got a clear vision north and south, and it's all open on the left,
Well, the school is
I'm not
relatively
saying-
new,
Yeah.
so I think this is being done out of an abundance of caution. And it's only during school hours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Enjoy the sun. Doug, coming back up. He has 33, resolution 33, which is an emergency contract award to automated building controls for mechanical repairs to the HVAC system at the Palisades Avenue Firehouse for the Department of Public Works, Division of Building and Streets Maintenance. Floor is yours.
Yeah.
33?
Sorry?
No.
I'm sorry, Council. Sorry.
Go ahead, Doug.
This concerns the HVAC system at the firehouse at 595 Palisade. Prior to my tenure in the current position, it was damaged. We're not sure how it was damaged. We were required to replace the control system, which is a computerized thermostat, which controls the system. We led a contract to Automated Building for this. They advised us, previous to executing the control system repairs, that once the controls are repaired, there may be further repairs that are necessary that can only be diagnosed once the control system was back in operation. Once they made the repair, they discovered these defects in the system, and this is a further contract to repair the mechanical issues.
Questions, council?
Yes.
Councilman Young.
Yeah. It's not working at the system. Since when?
This goes back, I don't know. It predates my my tenure in this
Yeah,
position.
before you get into politics, I mean, the starting work, Jersey, the system was not properly working, I think a couple of days after grand opening, because they put in large system. That's what has happened. So over the years, they used the window set up air conditioning units, really. That was a shame. But finally, your leadership is going to change that, they fix the repairs 22,000. But we put that some dollars last time, like 6-7 months ago, a year ago. I think this is the second time come up the money for repair.
Yeah, that's what I said. There was a previous repair, which was the control system for the HVAC system in the building. This is mechanical repairs to the same system.
How much we paid last time?
I believe it was $45,000 to replace the control
Yeah,
system.
45,000, right. We have a very expensive system.
This should get it back in proper working order. And We'll maintain it as it's to be maintained, and assuming there's no damage to the system, it will, should last its manufacturer's anticipated lifespan.
So it seems like when I see that invoice, seems like first when we change air conditioning system, this is more like a hot water, hot heating system, correct?
This is, the issue was, the company didn't know what mechanical defects there was because there was no computer that could operate the system. Once they replaced the computer that could operate the system, they were able to see what parts were working and which were not.
And this one, we have to hire somebody to control the thermostat game, like a municipal building? Yes or no?
Unfortunately, that's the case, but that's the
This is
system that it was
another
designed
rip
with.
of the taxpayers' dollars. The firehouse is more likely empty shell. And the control that the thermostat, we gotta have to be outsourcing somebody to pay every year to control the thermostat. I mean, can we train anybody from your department to control the thermostat? I mean, really? Instead we pay $10,000, $20,000. What do they call the Jersey Municipal building? We gotta pay, I mean, a DPW, how much you pay, $40,000 a year? Somebody control that?
But that, to be fair, that's also diagnostics of the system, regular repairs to keep it in good working order.
Even
It does
the
include
fuel
operating
body-
the system and troubleshooting it, but it's also making sure it works
Yeah,
correctly.
even
It's preventive
fuel
maintenance.
body, we don't have to check the doctors every single day. When you programming, if something wrong, they just tell us, send email, something your system know. You know what I'm saying? But long story make sure. But how much cost will be somebody maintain the thermostat out this building? Do you know?
I don't have the proposal in front of me from that. I'll have to get that for you. It's a small building, so it's not that much cost.
All right.
You have questions, Councilman Solomon?
Sure, if you do these repairs, then you give us like what the operating, like what the system is, because I know we did it with that contract.
I don't.
Do the annual kind of operating.
Well, I will get the preventive maintenance on it. We have an agreement. I'm working on getting agreements in all of our buildings, something we hadn't had before, so I will have one with this. I'm not prepared to commit to what the manufacturer's specification for is, for how long it should last, but I can certainly discuss that with Carrier and Automated and get back to you on it.
Okay, good.
Okay. So you're using operating dollars for this. Is this not a capital expense?
I think it's like a maintenance, building maintenance. Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
not really
believe-
capital.
It's components within the system, so we're not replacing the entire system. It's a collection of mechanical components. I understand Director Weller had paid for the control system out of a capital account, but for this, we decided to proceed out of our operating account.
Would it be preferable to use a capital account than to use operating dollars?
You could go either way, it's just a question of,
I mean, it can go either way, but isn't it always better to use capital? I don't know, it just doesn't, if you can spread the cost over a lifetime and as opposed to, I'm just, when we think about budget issues and things like that, and we're trying to, where do we find money with regard to schools and so forth, the idea of, if we have a choice between capital dollars versus operating dollars, I'd rather kind of use capital dollars if we can. It's not a huge amount of money here, but every dollar is counting these days, as far as our schools go.
I'll discuss that with our fiscal officer in Public Works tomorrow morning, and we'll get an answer for you on what we feel is the best practice in this case.
Okay, so we'll get an answer on that, capital dollars. Okay. And was it originally budgeted for in your operating dollars?
It was not part of, it's an unanticipated expense.
Right.
Because we had some sense that there would have to be some mechanical repairs that took place because the system was offline for a while, but it turned out to be significantly more than we thought it would be.
So if I recall, our capital budget includes like dollars for like unanticipated expenses related to capital issues, building expenses and things like that, right? So
That's correct.
So it seems like since it wasn't budgeted in our original operating budget, then it would probably be best there. And when we get to the budget hearings, I'll tell you that that's likely to come up as an issue at this point. So we want to control our budgets and keep them in line. If it wasn't in the original budget, then you're probably better off going to capital dollars, to those unanticipated kind of expense dollars that are available to us.
That makes sense. I'll discuss that with our fiscal officer and we'll get back to you
Right.
what our answer is.
Thank you. All right.
Anyone else? Okay.
No one else?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Keep the good work.
Christine has resolution 25. Oh, she stepped out.
Is Christine out there, Doug?
Sammy, step up, Sammy.
Christine out there?
Sammy has 28.
Sammy Ocasio.
Yes, that's me.
Sammy has 28, resolution 28. And that is authorizing the renewal of an open-end contract with Dawson Corporation to provide beam clay basketball diamond mix for the Division of Park Maintenance. Baseball field.
Baseball, yes.
Anything else you want to say about
Absolutely
that?
correct. It's basically the clay for the fields, the baseball fields, just to renew it.
Where's Danny?
Yeah.
Annual event. Danny would be
All right,
saying
so
go
before
for it.
Danny chimes in there, if I could get from the administration the balance on this account. And so just, you can hear me, I'm a broken record at this point in this meeting, so going forward, you're going to be looking for the balances on everything, since we're already kind of deeper into the budget cycle particularly, and making sure we're not overspending before we get to the budget hearings on that stuff. So if I can get the balance on this budget account. And then my other question is, we spent 27,000 in 2018, but we're looking for 39,257.
Yes, I'm sorry, correct.
Okay, so we have a difference. We spent 27,000 in 2018, and yet the contract amount we're requesting for this year is 39,257.
It's in the resolution now.
Is that mandated by the renewal, or is that kind of our choice?
Are we covering more funds?
Sammy, last year actually spending $27,000. But you asked us, we know this open the contract, but you asked for $38,000. So council president want to know, you only spent $27,000 last year, why you asked for $38,000 this year?
Well, we're doing a lot of more innovative approaches with our parks, with our baseball fields, I should be saying, Councilman. We're turning them a lot more often. We're adding a lot more clay to them. You know, we're having some saturation issues, oversaturation issues, I should be saying, within our softball fields, which take more clay to it. So we're just being proactive and just, you know, asking for more just in the event that we need more. I know, you know, this weekend we had some big, Councilman Rivera could confirm this, that we had some huge baseball games over citywide, everything. We need to make sure that the parks are in pristine condition. Not only are they going on the fields, but they're going adjacent to the field, so that way we can add, after every game, we can add some more of the beam clay mix to the fields, everything. So we're just asking for more, not that we're gonna exhaust the entire amount, but just so that way it's there to have, sir.
Okay. So in other words, this year you got more ball game than that compared to last year, correct?
It's not really about the ball game as well, Councilman. So this year you have 3 big parks that DPW has been proactively working on them a lot, which is Berry Lane Park, which is a park that the diamond inside the park requires this type of clay. Lincoln Park West, these parks needs to be turned like the director said. When you turn the infield, you have to add more clay. So, and we are hosting big time games this year. Jersey City has been chosen to host them. So it's not just for 1 year, it's a 3-year process. So we will be hosting games this year, the next year, and the following year. So I'm thinking that it might be a little higher next year.
So we got more games.
So we have more high-profile games. I'm sorry.
Great April we had didn't help things much.
It did not help at all. No. So we're constantly adding clay, keeping it set to the side and everything. So yes, and then we're putting it in as the councilman had requested before. We're putting them in our batting cages and such, so the kids could go and be able to warm up there. You know, we're just staying creative and innovative and proactive, while at the same time, to be perfectly honest with you.
Any other questions, council members?
Go.
Sammy, I just want to thank you for what you did for us up there.
Oh, you're welcome.
Great job.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, sir.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Sammy, did you do the tree trim that Bentley, I mean?
That one is coming up, I want to say Friday, if I'm not mistaken, Councilman.
Thank you.
Christine, you're up.
Christine, is item number 25.
Okay, period of
Sorry, Sammy, before you go, could I get the balance in your account as well? Yes, the expenditures on the account and the current balances.
Okay, 1025, you gotta forget the alphabet soup here. A resolution authorizing contracts with various musical performers to provide various performances for the calendar year 2019 Summerfest Tuesday concert series. Tuesdays.
Christine?
Again, Ms. Goodman?
Well,
You pretty much said it all. This is for our Tuesday concert series. It's going to be starting on, let me see, I have the date here, July 9th, for a series of 6 performances at Liberty State Park on Tuesdays down in the Southfield lawn by the flags.
Okay.
That's it?
Did we do this last year?
We're building them, actually. Yeah, we moved it down to the Southfield last year, and we had a great response because they do a lot of picnicking and barbecuing on Tuesday nights there, and we're really busy, so yeah, it's been good for the concert.
Did we pay last year for the musicians?
Oh, yeah.
What's the process by which you find your musicians?
It's a mix. Some of them we've booked for several years, and they come back every year with us. And then this year, Leonis Clyburn on my staff is trying to do new outreach to kind of expand the lineup to include some new musicians as well as some of the favorites that people come back for every year.
And then I've just been asking everyone if you could provide me with the balance on your account for where this is being drawn down from.
Sure.
And what you've spent on to date.
Sure.
Yep.
Christine, is there anything planned for Persian Field for the summer?
I thought we did it right.
I can check and I can give you the list. You know, we're permitting about 300 things at the moment, so I'll look through it and see what's proposed. It's pretty busy with the games.
He's okay, I'm sorry.
No, because usually, I'm not including you because you're new with this. We've always been excluded in wards B, C, and D. And I think it's time, stuff starts moving up towards us. All right?
Like a 4th of July event in the Pershing Field. It's very nice. You can do it. That's your fun job. Please.
Okay. Thank you. Lucinda. Here's resolution 37.
Where's she from?
37. Lucinda, what is your last name?
McLaughlin, MC.
I heard that before.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, you.
You're here for 37?
Yes, sir. Listen to me. The resolution I'm here for is permission to execute a contract with Leaders in Educational Equity for the placement of a fellow for the 2019 to 2020 academic year with the Jersey City Youth Council.
Okay. So, Lucinda, I understand there's $10,000 in matching funds?
Yes, sir.
Where is that coming from?
Either the Youth Council's contractual or professional services lines.
Okay. Because it's not cited in the resolution. I don't know who's...
Forgive me.
Yeah. If we could clarify that and just include that with the... And this, the account numbers are normally specified as to what the...
Okay, that's...
I mean, this is a matching grant, matching fund, so if we could put that in the... If I could get the balance on that.
The current balance?
Yeah, wherever the match is coming from.
Okay, just to be clear, this is for something will be due by September. So envisioned in the next, this year for the budget, but yes, the line's gonna have maybe about $3,000 in it right now.
Okay.
But yes, sir, no problem.
Okay, great.
Great.
Any other questions, anyone? No.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lucinda. Louis Pacheco has item resolution 14.
Okay, number 14 is a resolution authorizing the signing of an agreement between Jersey City Economic Development Corporation and the City of Jersey City for the reimbursement of costs incurred by way of the Jersey City Youth's Work Program.
You want to say anything, Louis?
Oh, no, yeah, pretty much in a nutshell, the EDC is how we end up getting our donations sent over to. So what we've done for the last few years is pretty much set up a gift agreement with the city. They set up an account for us. We end up exhausting money out of that account, and at the end of the summer, we end up reimbursing the city for the money spent.
They end up reimbursing the city.
EDC ends up reimbursing the city, correct?
And just for $190,000 in reimbursements?
Yeah.
And that covers how many students?
So every stipend is $2,500 from the corporations, $2,000 goes to the students, and $500 goes to the program costs. So we're thinking 80 students this year at $2,000 is $160. And then we normally hire about anywhere from $15,000 to $30,000 worth of staff. So normally there are 3 to 5 staff members.
So our councilman can have some more income?
This is separate than the City Youth Jobs program. The Youth Works initiative is the big umbrella. This is specifically for the Jersey City Summer Internship Program. So it's no city money that's being used besides the account that's being opened for us. Everything is privately donated. So we're contacting our for-profit corporations, our financial institutions, and they're the ones that end up paying for our students. We don't charge our nonprofits. Our nonprofits end up coming in from donations either from individuals that want to donate to the program or from some companies that can't take students. So they end up donating to the program and we end up placing at nonprofits.
So you have 80 students placed into nonprofits?
Nonprofits, financial services, law departments or law companies, realty companies, so everything from Mac Cali to St. Peter's, down to York Street Project, Women Rising, JP Morgan, Fidelity, you name it. Goldman doesn't take students, but they end up donating over to us. So we do have a pretty large group of people that end up donating to the program.
And what age are the students?
These are rising high school seniors, so they just finished their junior year in high school, and they're about to enter their senior year. So they're working Monday through Thursday at their internship locations, and then every Friday we actually take them in for some professional development. So everything from working on their time management skills to elevator pitches, public speaking, really looking at their resumes later on in the summer and just seeing what we can do to really enhance them.
How many years have you been doing this now?
This is year 6.
Year 6. Any other questions, Council?
I just want to make sure we get the internship, somewhat internship program.
Yeah, that's a separate budget, and I know that we'll discuss that at the budget meeting. Right now, it's projected that I have $85,000 in that, and that comes out of the workforce management. And then I'm always tied into making sure that I try to accommodate as many of these departments as possible. It's not just council, it's the library, it's HEDC, it's public safety, it's a bunch of different ones. So we end up placing them throughout the city. So obviously the request for more money is useful, but with the 85, my hands may be tied as far as the amount of students that I'm allowed to give everybody. I want to be fair and I don't want to take away that many from locations, and I want to make sure that everybody obviously does get to have the opportunity of having some summer interns.
But we should remember that the council actually...
So if they give me more money and a job description, obviously I can do whatever you guys want me to do. But until then, I'm limited to the amount that's given and appreciative of the amount that's given.
Or we can just get what we want because we're the one to approve it. Oh, hey, did I say that?
That's a bit conflicting, but sure.
It could be conflicting, or it could just be...
I mean, sounds conflicting.
Okay.
Conflicting, I'm not sure what the conflict is.
You're
it's our budget.
It. Yeah, sure. You're approving
it's our
it
budget.
So you can
it's the city council budgets, right? Sure. So we can actually literally take the money away and put it into an internship program run by the city council to run our own internship program.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
We could do that.
You can.
We could.
Some of the
So that could be conflicting. Like.
You can.
When you say use the word the fair, have very be careful in Jersey City.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you guys.
Mel, you're up.
Yeah, okay.
Mel's back. The resolution had never... Resolution 27 and Resolution 34.
So 27 is ACES.
energy efficiency, RFP, moving forward with the buildings, prioritizing, been there, done it.
Yeah, it's the same resolution from the last
Same
two
one.
meetings.
Yeah, it's deja vu all over.
Here we go, yeah.
It's just this time it has a number, account number?
Yeah. Well, sorry, 27, yeah. We,
27, let me read it into the title,
Go ahead.
title into the record. 1027 is a resolution approving participation in the Alliance for Competitive Energy Services, acronym ACES, ACE Plus program, to provide energy efficiency consulting services.
So, Council President, the only change at this point is, from last week, we reviewed another company suggested by a council member to make sure that it wasn't offering the same services, and we found that while there was a really useful recommendation, they would be more towards the implementation side as opposed to where we are right now. That's the only difference.
So I just want to ask you one thing, that when I read this resolution, more likely targeting long-term cost saving through improved energy use. So when you say long-term cost saving, means that we gotta wait for long-term to see the dollar saving.
Sorry,
So
by
you-
long-term, they mean they will provide savings for long-term success, but we will start seeing energy savings, direct benefits year one.
Year one.
Yes.
That's what we want to know, okay? And the saving is that this is a difference. We claim that we're saving $1 million, but in order to save $1 million, we have to invest in capital input $2 million, then it's not the same, you know?
Correct.
So you gotta make sure that capital input cost versus saving, so return of investment have to match. And I told the the business administrator, when you have that, any project we look, place in Jersey City, if you have a financial plan, cost recovery, investment cost recovery plan, if it's a 15 years.
We've discussed,
You do the MBA, right?
Yes.
So you know. So we gotta make sure that in 5 years, whatever we invest, have to pay off. 5 years later, whatever we saving is gonna be benefit the taxpayer of Jersey City. Keep an eye for that. Other than that.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I know this is the third time around, so just, but you're here at this meeting, so I'm gonna ask for the balances now on the account.
Okay.
So if it's just your account code, whatever it's coming out of.
Got it.
Balances on that. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Okay, C34
Yep.
is a resolution authorizing the renewal of a contract with Millennium Strategies for grant consulting services.
So the city has had a relationship with Millennium Strategies, which is different than Millennium Communications. Since 2014, you have this, which demonstrates the amount of funds brought in through that relationship. I think it speaks for itself. This is an option to extend a contract for an additional year, $144,000 on our end.
No, we don't have that. Can't you have?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, we don't have that.
Here's some.
Can I get a copy?
Me and Marlene both printed it.
Okay, go ahead.
So as you look, it starts at 2014, but that's the first year. The most complete year is 2018, $7,834,542.48. And we anticipate this year's total funds coming in to meet and exceed that as well.
Okay.
Okay, council members, questions?
No, that's somebody, we missed that, okay?
So I have a comment, if I can, just, first one, just balance, I get the balance on this account as well. But for the administration as a whole, so Council, we'll discuss later on budget hearings. And so looking at a budget hearing on the school budget and doing an allocation on the school budget, we can talk more about that. But just in preparing for that conversation, I spoke with Superintendent Walker and Suzanne Thomas, the board president, about some sort of shared services agreement with them around grants. And being able to support them with their, they don't currently have any sort of grant program. They do it in-house staff, but it's not really, I mean, every department director or associate superintendent on their own, like figuring it out on their own. And so having a grant consultant might be beneficial to them. I'm not suggesting that we alter this contract, but if there's some way to have that conversation with them to start that, to see if maybe we can leverage our grant consultant as a shared resource with the Jersey City Public Schools to help build their ability to be able to acquire more grants.
It's a great idea, and I know that Millennium's been in conversation with Regina from the BA for the schools. So I'm not sure where they are. That's their, you know, if they're talking with the schools separately from us, but I do know that there is a conversation happening.
I'm saying as a shared service, like our cost, essentially, right?
Yeah, no, we've been talking about that.
They don't have the ability to do it.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah. Okay.
What, you know, that list of grants you provided us, you know, what does Millennium do?
Millennium does everything. They do acquisition of funds. They have a full-time research team. They do the narratives. They keep and compile data. They do all of the work that leads up into the submission of the grant. The only assistance they have from us is the stuff that we need to provide to ensure that we get the funds. But they do all the writing.
All pre-award stuff.
Pre-award.
Would we be able, for any of the council members, if we have a project we're interested in, to be able to set up a meeting with the Millennium team and say, hey, you know, there's a park in my district, there's, you know, a school in my district, whatever, and I'm interested in kind of understanding, you know, there's scooters everywhere. Can I get a grant to deal with this?
Yeah, certainly.
Okay, I just want to see that as an option.
It also comes the other way too. They'll tell us, hey, would you consider this grant or this type? So yeah, absolutely.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, why is there $1.5 million for Berry Lane Park, new park, and all this money's being spent there? Once again, what about Mosquito Park, what about Persian?
Which one are you talking about?
You know, I mean, this
In the 2018 funds?
46 million we're up to in Berry Lane Park now?
Which one are you referring to?
14, yeah, right?
Right here, right on the front page.
It's right, 14.
14, front page?
15. All right, look, never mind, I'll talk to you separately about this, all right?
Okay, yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Barca. Yeah, she has resolution 45.
Do you want to?
Is it 45?
45, yeah, it's one of the late editions.
Oh, yeah?
This is one of the late editions.
Yeah, that's the town.
Oh, those are yours. These are mine.
Okay, then we gave them a vote.
So this is a late edition. Apologies that emailed about how this is an oversight on my part. So this is a resolution authorizing us to use competitive contracting for an RFP for the city-owned bus service. We expect to move forward with this using new technology similar to what you find with Uber and Lyft, where it's accessible through a cell phone app. It dynamically adjusts the route and the rates as we see fit and as the demand suggests is the need for it. The intention is to fill the transit deserts, fill the gap of transit deserts in neighborhoods that are less served. So, for example, the Heights in Greenville, where they don't have as much access to mass transit as some other neighborhoods. We also expect to provide some additional subsidies for the more underserved populations, for residents of affordable housing, for seniors, for that sort of thing.
So now we're gonna get into transit business, is that right?
Well, we're going to do an RFP and we're going to see what our options are, to be honest. And that's when we can have a more specific conversation as the council and administration to see what we want to do.
So you talk about subsidies, like what kind of dollars are we talking about? Are they budgeted?
So again, we're not done with the RFP yet, and we don't have the specific numbers that we're going to be charged or be charging on both sides of it, so we can't really speak too specifically about what the subsidies are going to be. But in general, transit systems are not profitable
Very
operations.
expensive,
Right,
yeah.
they are, yeah.
Have to
And so-
subsidize.
Yeah, but so when we look at the issues that we've seen as a city with the bus service, the bus services that are provided here being reduced and not being adequate for our residents, when we think about the needs of our populations, it's a question of how much we want to spend and how we want to best support our residents.
So, okay, I just want to say that because the transit issue is a major issue.
Yeah.
First hit the transit issue, Central Avenue, in the citywide, like probably 10 years ago. So I involved with transit issue many, many years. So we actually, as a together, it's like a police academy. Councilman Rich Bojan want the police academy, want the Jersey City. Always I said we should be county-wise, while we carry all the burden. Actually, transit issue, we should go Hudson County in a transit authority separate from the usual transit, because the ridership we have in Hudson County is a huge problem. At least 30% of statewide ride happen here. So if we get into transit issue, we have to know that most mass transportation left in Jersey City, most owned by private company. Reason is they left because their business is not profitable. Now, City of Jersey get into their business to try to provide the transit with cost of taxpayer. Really, this is a very high risk business, but we have to provide somewhere, somehow, So
Yeah.
when you print the RFP, you gotta make sure that not only connect the city north to south, but also east to west.
Yep.
Not only certain area that road have to connect everywhere in Jersey City. So look into that matter. It's a very expensive business.
It's very expensive. One of the benefits to the approach we're taking is it's not a fixed route. So we're not saying it's one road and connecting one neighborhood to another neighborhood. It's wherever the demand is to wherever they need to go. So if it's one neighborhood in Greenville that needs it more, or one neighborhood in Heights that needs it more, they're going to get more. They're going to get more response from the vehicles. And if they need to go to certain other neighborhoods, that's okay, and that's the point of this actually.
So
To connect
this
those places.
is
to
the
go to-
problem. When we provide transit, bus line,
Yeah.
you put you 1 hour every day. You provide the frequency 1 hour, then they ask every 45 minutes. When you provide 45, they want every 30 minutes. It's endless business.
Yeah,
really.
understood. And
So this
yeah.
is in response to a lot of the concerns we heard throughout the city about the fact that the existing service that we have for transit, we can refer to places as transit deserts for a couple of different reasons. It could be that they don't have stops for buses or trains or whatever it may be. It may also be that the service that they do have is not frequent or reliable. That's also considered a transit desert because people can't rely on the bus to get there on time and get them to their destination on time. So the good thing about this, even though we're referring to it as a bus service, is it's not the traditional transit model. It's more micro-transit, which is nimble, it's flexible, it can be adjusted as we see fit, and the vehicles are smaller. So they're not the full bus vehicles or the larger articulated buses. They're more shuttle-size or van-size vehicles so that they can run more often. They can, if there isn't demand, say in the middle of the day, they don't have to be riding around the street causing congestion. And like Brian said, we can program them so that they are picking up people and dropping them off at known popular origins and destinations. And then if there are events, if there are things going on, we can easily program them to serve those needs as well. So there are a lot of benefits to it, and in some places it's been proven to replace traditional bus or transit models. We're not looking to do that yet. If there's an opportunity, we can look into it. But right now, it's just to supplement the places you know, we do have a pretty dense network of buses and trains and bike share, but it's clearly not covering all of the neighborhoods. So this is to supplement what we have already.
So why don't we do this way? Years ago, in the city or county, I think a law department have looked into the matter, that the jitney bus, we're not able to regulate it, but I think state law changed. A city or county, they have some authority to regulating jitney bus. The way you describe, you more likely, city of Jersey can run the jitney bus. That's what it is, okay? So instead we invest the money, and it's really expensive business. Instead we do that, maybe the public bidding, we regulate jitney bus line in the city of Jersey. Maybe we pick up one of the company to provide a service. Instead we run the show, let them run the show by contract base. I think that's the way you should be run.
Yeah,
This is how we get there.
Right.
This is how we get to an RFP. And to clarify, we don't know what the cost is going to be at this point. This RFP will help us understand that landscape and what our options are on the cost
And
side.
also, law department had looked into the matter that the state, they give us some power to city or county to regulate jitney bus line. So licensing jitney bus line certain area. In other words, whatever select company has authorized that they run a certain area. You know what I'm saying? Look into that matter. I don't want it costs.
Yeah, we'll also get a better understanding of whether it's cost effective for the city to have its own fleet of vehicles and work and, you know, drivers and all of that stuff that we want to get into that, or it's not, and we can contract all of those things out like you're mentioning, and that may be a better route for us, but we're able to control things in a way that we can't currently because we don't control any of the transit systems we have in the city.
Yep.
So we may find that out.
When you say we get a better sense of whether we can hire our own bus driver, whatever, like drivers or whatever, and set up our own infrastructure. So, I mean, how does this process get you that information?
The RFP is going to call for a description of all aspects of the service, so not just providing the routes, but not just providing the vehicles, but the drivers, the insurance, the app, the service. Every component of it will be priced out in this RFP. And then we'll understand, is this something we should do? If so, here are the pieces of it that we want to do, here are the pieces of it that we want another vendor to do, that sort of thing.
You know, Brian, last week, we had all the heads and the head of New Jersey Transit, the other 4 people in charge of New Jersey Transit, 5 of them. We had the assembly people.
Yep.
We had people from the governor's office up in the nursing home.
Yep.
And the only 2 people from the city that were there discussing all this and what New Jersey Transit's going to do for us here in the city, citywide, was Michael and myself. Nobody from this city was there present, and they should have been. In fact, one of the people said to me, everybody saw all these people, and the people from all over the city, about 125 people, and nobody from this city was there.
I heard about it afterwards, but to be frank, you know, we have meetings regularly with representatives from NJ Transit, and where are we at this point?
Well,
Like,
this
we're
was
still
the
talking
president,
about
this
it.
was the governor's office, and
Yep,
we had
and
people from Greenville,
look,
Ward A, Ward B, Ward
Yep,
F.
and we think that it's, yeah, I heard about it afterwards, so we think that, we think instead of spending time meeting with other agencies and trying to get other agencies to move forward, we think there's a good opportunity for us to see if we can just do this and just get it done.
And to that point, I'll mention, to address your earlier comment about approaching this at a county level, you know, there have been planning studies and things that have done. There's been a study done that says Hudson County should have a bus rapid transit system. It should be on a county route, but as we've seen, those things are not moving as quickly as they can move if we do it in a way where the city can use the streets that we do have jurisdiction over, use the resources that we do have jurisdiction over, and move things along a little bit more quickly. So that's what we're counting on.
Yeah.
We also want to stress that we're approaching this focusing on the service for residents and not necessarily a profit-driven, market-based approach, which is what you get with a lot of this stuff. We're trying to provide a service and try to connect residents with where they need to go. It may cost us money, but that's the point. There are other groups that would not provide bus service or any type of service in these areas because they're not going to make money off of it. And we are not.
So let me ask you this one. When we spoke with New Jersey Transit, if I remember right, when they say New Jersey Transit Service provide transit service means that from their line to like 4 blocks, you know what I'm saying, if they have a transit line, they say they service. So make sure that, you know, don't want to, but please don't rush, just do right. Okay, once you start it, you can hardly stop it because when they start it, people depend on the system.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a big burden to taxpayer. And also, as you know, Jersey real estate investment they come up here and there so much, so continue destination change. So please, instead of rush, do right. And how much cost will be for this one?
We don't know the cost yet. This RFP is going to dictate that. And we can't really speculate at this point, to be honest.
The easiest way,
Especially because it's.
I recommend it.
Yeah.
Try to create to regulating for Jitney bus. Maybe we give them some monopoly licensing for certain area, loan them, you know what I'm saying, instead we involve. So in other words, we sell our authorization to loan certain area transport owned by them.
And jitney medallions like taxis and then
That is
an Uber service.
That is sort of what we're trying to do, but this is the mechanism of contract.
Yeah, okay. But I don't want to just this one, not just a political gesture to certain areas as an issue.
Yeah.
I want to do this is one of the ways to solve the problem in that area.
Yeah,
okay?
we're very serious about this, yeah.
All right, good.
Yeah.
So if we approve this resolution, then when do you come back to the council?
We do an RFP, we review proposals, we come back to approve any contracts or spend any dollars. We'll probably talk to the council about it before we get to that point, just because it's so complicated, it's so important.
Yeah, I would be concerned about approving this now just because, you know, I understand these RFPs, you can't put all the details out, but like, what is a transit desert? What level of services are we calling for? And my concern is that if the council has no input in that, we approve this, and then all of a sudden the final product is kind of put before us, and it's a yay or nay, up or down, you know, there are going to be a lot of us that are going to have, you know, concerns. I mean, my first concern is, you know, I have Holland Gardens. I don't know if that is considered a transit desert according to your definition, but I think in all practicality it is. And so I would be concerned about approving this without having a certainty that it is going to be covered by this service. And so I'd like us to have maybe some conversations so we have at least the parameters of what we're talking about before we're jumping ahead. Sure.
We can provide a limited amount of information on some of those things. Again, it's an RFP, so we can't share a lot of this publicly, but if it's just sort of like the neighborhoods, we can definitely provide that information where the council would like it to be, for sure.
Sure. I mean, certainly for my neighborhood, that's the big transit.
Sure.
I mean, I would be very upset if we approved something that didn't cover it.
Yeah.
A second question is there any other city that's doing something similar right now that you guys are looking to as a model?
There are a few other cities that are doing stuff like that. A lot of it's called often like first mile, last mile, whatever you want to call it. Sioux Falls, South Dakota is the most recent one I heard about. It's doing something similar. Centennial, Colorado. It's sort of like, it's interesting, it's at the end of a light rail network, and it's sort of that piece of it. But you know, there are some bigger cities that have this sort of service that just looks like any other car sharing service kind of thing. So there are some models out there, but again, it's like sort of a new thing and new technology that, you know, before we really want to make any decisions, we want to just see what's out there doing our.
And the thing about it is that it emphasizes the shared nature of the ride as opposed to other app-based companies that are more single rider or two-rider services.
What's the timetable after RFP?
Just saying a timetable, you know, it's about a month probably to do the RFP and review it and bring it back to council, but we'll probably extend a little bit just so we can talk to the council after we get the responses and make sure we're doing it right. We're not gonna.
Is there anything in this currently for this?
There's not right now. We don't know what the cost is gonna be, so we're gonna have to figure that out once we get the responses back and talk about funding.
I'm saying if it's not in here now, then like you're really kind of looking at 2020 at that point, right? So,
I mean, look, we don't know. Again, the cost could be zero, or we could be profit generating. And
like you said, it incurs a significant.
It could, yeah, it could, yeah. But again, also, at this rate, we probably, depending upon the systems and the infrastructure required, it may take 6 to 12 months to get all that set up anyway. So it's probably not something we're going to even spend $1 on this year. We could be wrong, but we'll have to come back to the council for that.
Yeah, we'll see. We've got to shape.
Can I get an assurance for that? And, I mean, it's just me. We have our budget issues, right? The budget crisis. So like, I don't want to have like an unexpected expense going into 2019. Could we amend this resolution to just say?
I mean, at the end of the day, the council would have to approve any dollar we'd spend anyway. So it's not. You'd have to approve the contract. We couldn't spend anything without your approval, no matter what.
I know, but to James' point, once that kind of that train starts rolling, right? Like the RFP comes out and then things start to move, and then there's a tweet or something that says bus service is coming to Greenville. You know, it's already approved, and blah blah blah. Then we're all kind of like in a jam and trying to figure out like budgeting, like how do we budget for that when we've got a school funding crisis and all the other things.
Sure.
And
there's also possibilities for other types of alternative funding, like grants and stuff. So maybe.
No, don't depend on grant. Come on, what's better?
No, I'm just saying, like, do we want to say the city will spend $0 on this until? I'm just curious what the language.
I'm saying the language is something like for a program, for a service effective no earlier than January 1st, 2020.
Okay.
So that way we know it's going to the next budget cycle, and we're not trying to figure it out for this budget cycle, like what that impact is. So,
Council President, don't worry, those things happen. We chopped the business audience budget and the mayor's budget.
That's fine.
I didn't say that.
And the traffic engineering.
I'm not
Where are you now? Okay.
All right. Thank you, Mark.
Okay, well.
Okay, let me ask this one. While we.
Okay. Stacy. Sorry, Stacy. Stacy's got a bunch. She's got resolution 19 to 23 and then resolution 26.
19 to 23, would you read the first one, Council President?
What?
Would you read the first one?
Oh, sure. It's the resolution authorizing the Department of Health and Human Services to accept additional grant funds from the State of New Jersey Department of Health and Division of Women and Infants and Children.
So this is additional funds specifically for breast pumps for moms, and so it's going into a separate account than the WIC account.
I don't think there's any questions on that, right? None? Resolution 20 is authorizing the execution of a grant agreement and the acceptance of a grant award from New Jersey Department of Health, Division of HIV, STD, and TB Services.
So this is our annual agreement. Actually, this one, we got support from Millennium to apply. It was a new RFP cycle for the next 5 years. And we were awarded the 15,000.
Yeah, sounds right. 115,000. No questions, Council? Thank you. Resolution 21 is a resolution authorizing the execution of a license agreement with New Jersey City University for facility rental and usage.
Yeah, this is for our senior affairs activities. So this comes out of our county funds for seniors. Last year, we went into an agreement with NJCU. We operate our senior programs there. In the past, we didn't pay for it, and we brought our own instructors, and the new athletic department asked us to pay, but they give us instructors. So they have the lifeguards and the spin instructor and the walking plan. So we shut down over the summer, and I believe over the summer, while Pershing Field is closed, they'll use the NJCU pool, and we'll start up again in September.
Okay. No questions, Council? Next item is item 22, which is...
I'll do the pleasure resolution authorizing the payment of a claim submitted by the National Council of Behavioral Health for providing mental health first aid training.
Yes, this is a payment of a claim because we received a grant in October from SAMHSA. It's a federal grant With the departure of the former CFO, her name was still on the material, so we couldn't draw down the funding to pay this grant in a timely manner. So we've had to make a payment of claim. We trained 20 different people who can now do mental health first aid training across the city. To date, I believe we've trained about 500 individuals as part of a 3-year program to train 3,000 teachers, community members, police, fire, EMS.
Explain to me again, why this not claim was
So
able to come before us?
SAMHSA is a federal grant. On the original documents of the grant, Donna Maurer's name was on it, so we couldn't draw down the funding to pay them. So they couldn't charge us until we were able to change the name, and then we didn't have, our acting CFO was out. So Brian and I had to actually coordinate this with the federal government because and so we couldn't pay it.
We couldn't pay it, and
Yeah, because we did this last year. We couldn't draw the money down to pay the grant off that account.
the process would be, I would assume that there would be a resolution to approve a contract.
Yeah, the contract was approved last year.
Okay. So then, I don't understand, why is there a claim necessary?
Because this didn't come within the timely manner to be able to draw down the money to pay it. So last year we were gonna pay it off of just like our funds, right? But they couldn't send us an invoice. And so then we had to pay it off of the SAMHSA funds, but then we didn't have access to the SAMHSA funds to be able to pay it.
Council, anything else? None?
Actually, I'm not understanding much.
I don't either, but.
So we get a ton of federal money, and federal money is a lot more complicated than the municipal money. So actually, none of this work right here pertains to any funding that the council gives us, but you approve those grants, right? So last year, we received the grant. We needed to hire someone to train us on the mental health first aid training. It's part of the SAMHSA grant. Every year, we'll be training 20 trainers. This is a train the trainer.
Yeah.
And every year, we are going to be training 1,000 residents. And these are everyone in the health department, the RRC, anyone that serves residents. Obviously, all of your aides are welcome to this training. We do it once a month for staff, and then we've trained other people to actually host these trainings across the city. So over the weekend, there was a training at Mount Pisco. 2 weeks ago, there was a training with the nurses from the school system. So our commitment is to train everyone that interacts with individuals to identify any mental health first aid issues.
Okay, so how many people so far we trained?
About 500.
500? Okay. So 2018, right?
So we got the grant in October, and so far we've trained about 500.
Wow.
So we plan to have 1,000 trained by October, and then through the next federal fiscal year, which is October 1 through September 30th.
So
we'll train
$21,000 enough to do that?
No, this is just to train,
Just-
this is just for this company to come once. You have to be trained by them. It's a 3-day
Oh, okay, I see.
training
Okay, okay.
to be able to train others and give them the certificate.
So grandpa teach that your father teach your son.
Yes.
Thank you. All right.
Okay,
Okay.
next item, 1023.
23 is a resolution authorizing the payment of a claim to Luisa Redonda for conducting Zumba classes. This claim is because in January, we didn't get the county Office on Aging DocuSign appropriately, and in fact, it came much later, so we couldn't execute contracts with our instructors, so we have several instructors that we are submitting claims for.
So there's more coming.
Though the next one is a higher cost, so the next one will be Carol.
Is that a claim or that's a?
That's a contract, but then we'll have to
That's because DocuSign, there was some
Because
problem.
we didn't get the DocuSign to execute the contract from the freeholders. Like, it didn't work for us, so they had to like keep sending it to us. So we couldn't execute the contract with them. So we couldn't open the grant accounts to be able to open a service agreement to then issue a PO to each of these contractors.
So we've had several of these claims
Yeah.
coming up lately, not from your department,
Yeah.
but across the organization at this point. So I'm concerned a little bit about this, because claims are like, they're administrative breakdowns somehow,
Yeah.
in our ability to kind of, so I voted against many of them, I voted no on them. And I'm not sure what's going on there, and there's a lot of different reasons.
I think we have a lot
for
of
why.
fiscal turnover right now, and so
Yeah.
we're trying to make sure to make that happen, and I think our BA is doing everything he can to get us the right staff in the right place.
Yeah.
So.
She
There-
hasn't been paid for 4 months. and
Yeah.
No, I'm not,
Yeah.
it just needs to be paid, they all, particularly Cookie or Carol, like folks who are like,
So it'll come up in the budget hearings, but we're working on a little bit of restructuring with our finance personnel to improve oversight and management and accountability, so we can talk about it.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
What
The
else you
next
got?
one is 26. And so obviously you didn't see a service agreement for Cookie because Cookie doesn't do as many classes as Carol. Carol, we couldn't do an RFP until we had the contract open, so we did an informal RFP to yoga instructors. We have been working with Carol for 20 years. She came in at the same. We've offered her additional classes to cover work that we're doing at the Housing Authority. So that came in over 17.5, which is why we're bringing it to you. Once you approve this, we can. What happened is in January, we don't want to not have classes, right? But we didn't have the contract from the state. But we knew we were getting the money. So we had like a letter saying we're getting the money, but we didn't actually have the contracts. But these are all grant funds, so this.
Okay. Council, anything else?
No.
Stacy? Thank you, Stacy.
Oh, Director,
Yes.
this is something different. So I know that you are a board member of JSEP. We were supposed to have the acting director here tonight to talk about, one of the most important decisions I think that you guys are gonna have to make in the next couple weeks, months, and that means hiring a full-time director. We had the acting director coming in tonight with the board who was gonna, I guess, the committee to hire, and I just wanted to know how that process works and like what kind of input do you guys have on it? Because I asked to be on the board itself, but until Friday, I didn't know anything or hear anything back from the acting director about the board. So I'm trying to, kind of see, because he's supposed to be here tonight he sent me a text saying that, he forgot and he's, he'll make it up to us next time. But I know I think I sent it out to the entire council that he was gonna come explain, the hiring process.
Well, since I'm not the acting executive director, I can't speak on behalf of the board, but I will speak on behalf of myself, Stacy Flanagan. I received the job description approximately 15 days ago with the subcommittee's plan of action. It was not voted on by the board, and it was more of an FYI for me that it was already posted. I was concerned as someone with 35 years in nonprofit management related to the aspects of the job description that did not acknowledge the social justice issue in the community issue, leadership, and or fundraising. So I brought those to Mark Rowan, who is the subcommittee chairperson of this process. I have made him aware of my concern, and our next board meeting is May 30th.
And so you said you didn't vote for the subcommittee?
We have not voted since our meeting in January. We have not had a board meeting.
And so, I mean, these questions are not for you. I'm just talking out loud. So how was a subcommittee formed if the board didn't have a meeting since January to approve?
We received a memo from the acting executive director of our board code, a subcommittee assignments.
And you said the next meeting is May 30th.
Correct.
All right, so he said he's gonna make it up to us and he's gonna be here at the next caucus meeting. Yeah, the acting executive director, I mean, he was supposed to be here tonight, and since I know she's on the board before she leaves, I just wanted to ask a few questions of how the search is going, because I really believe, not just for Ward F or Ward A, the South Side, but this is a really big hire for the entire city.
I received an email from Mark Rowan letting me know the job description and that the search had begun. The board did not review the executive director job description before it
Why
went out.
we discuss this one here?
What's that?
Why we discuss this one here?
Yeah, I know you're not.
Why didn't we discuss what?
I know you're not asking.
What?
He said, why are we discussing?
Hey man, you know this Ward F again, you know.
So there was a request to have the Director of Employment and Training be here at this meeting. I thought it was happening too. I called you, Councilman, just to confirm that, but we weren't able to connect. But I did reach out to Sudan just prior to this meeting, probably about 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. He told me that it was going to be at the next meeting. I just took him that, I just assumed he had cleared that with everybody else, including yourself, since you brought it to my attention. But I guess that wasn't the case.
I just texted him and asked him where he was, and you know, that the whole council was sitting here waiting, because we, you know, the BA was expecting him, we all were expecting him, he just said no, and because I just found it just a little bit troubling. I wanted to talk to him, and I wanted to, you know, be open and honest in front of everyone, because I searched for the job description, the hiring, and I searched on Monster and ZipRecruiter and
I thought it was, after you had told me, I thought it was coming on today, but he told me late this afternoon that it was pushed back to next week, so I made a false assumption that he had cleared that with everybody else, but I guess that wasn't the case.
No, he said he talked to the president and said that I called the president and told him that I wasn't coming, that it was okay with everyone else. And I said, well, the president didn't ask you to come. I didn't receive a phone call. And the reason I asked him to come...
He didn't call me. Well, number one, he didn't call me. You can look at my phone records on it. I called him. I called him because I was calling him about the school budget hearing and not even really intending to call him about this tonight. I just assumed he was still coming tonight. So he told me and informed me that he wasn't coming and that it was moved to... I said, I'll see you tonight, but I wanted to talk to you about something else. It's literally how I started the conversation. And he told me, well, I'm not coming tonight. We're coming at the next meeting. And I forget why. He just explained to me that that there was something else, I guess, that, it sounded like it was already done, it was decided and accomplished before I called him. So I just
I didn't, Councilman, and direct, I'm sorry to hold you up on this. It's like the councilman said, this is probably not the right time, but I tell you, I sent out a letter to the BA and the mayor to get him here last week because I was searching for this job description and I found it on one site and it was already closed. And on Friday, I got resumes hand delivered to my business and told on Friday night at 6 p.m. by the acting director that I was supposed to review these and come up with a decision by 2 o'clock today before he showed up in front of the caucus. And it just really sounds strange to me. I haven't even opened it, but I heard, you know, his name was inside the package.
Just for the record, I had nothing to do with him not being here.
Okay, no. He told me that he spoke to you about it and said that he wasn't. I already confirmed with the council president that I wouldn't be there.
He did confirm that with me and told it to me as a matter of fact. Like, it wasn't like I was asking him to change it to another date or time, or like that. It wasn't even a conversation. He just let me know that that was the case and that was what was happening. So.
Council President, sounds like a business as usual. So you gotta straight up.
Yeah,
we're gonna. I mean, we really need to get ahead of this, director. I mean, I hope. So, I believe that the search should be restarted with the approval of the board. Now, I'm not a board member, but that's up to you guys. I think on May 30th.
Yeah.
To actually have a meeting and come up with a comprehensive search plan so we can find a new director, because the budget season is coming and we do provide funds to this agency.
I hear
So
you.
I'm sorry to keep you here.
Circus. You know what is a circus? All right, so those issues is out of the council. That's what they are whole issue. So please, don't just, he say very simple, don't play business as usual. That's what he wants. Right? All right, good, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
Brian, you look like very tired. I know.
This baby is a year old yet.
Oh, okay.
I could have warned you that. That's it, I told you.
Coffee strong though.
Baby kid with you?
Yeah.
I know, it's not easy.
The job too. Stressful job.
So council persons, all right. So we also have with us tonight Kevin Walsh and Eric Dobson. We have 3 resolutions pertaining to inclusionary zoning. The administration and Tanya and Alicia have a presentation that they would like to conduct, and then after they complete theirs, information, and we'll share, as I said, Kevin Walsh and Eric Dobson from Fair Share Housing will work with myself and Councilperson Waterman on another ordinance that we're introducing to the council tonight as well regarding inclusionary zoning.
Which one will you discuss?
So Tanya and Alicia have ordinance,
What?
ordinance 4 and 5.
Ordinance
4 and 5. And there are 2 separate ordinances, one relating to the inclusionary zoning itself, and then one restructuring the affordable housing compliance around that.
So
Okay.
3.
So you have a presentation, maybe on the screen or somewhere? Oh, no, you guys didn't coordinate on a presentation?
We did, but there were so many people
It's supposed to be.
I'm just going to go off to the other side so I can review these.
Before we do that, let me want to. Yes,
Come on, lady.
Yeah. We got it. This cord is supposed to be. I'll plug it in.
Sorry.
This was already been put in. That's cool. Should just be.
Yeah.
Time to take out the eyes.
Okay, ready to go? Okay. Councilmembers will give Tanya her attention.
Okay, so I'm actually, I had prepared a PowerPoint for other things, yes, the planning board. So I'm going to keep it actually very simple. This is a illustration that we did after our housing element. I think if we're talking about, I guess, really important things to pay attention to, it's really that our population is increasing. Since 1990, we've increased about 16%. We're getting close to our, actually, there you go. We're getting closer to our record high in 1930. And I think what we get a lot of questions on, what I think is probably very interesting, I didn't even realize the number would be this high. As of 2019, there are 19,000 units that were approved and 7,000 under construction, and that are numbers.
The first factor is wrong. It's 328
That's what the.
in 1930. Robert did the census.
He wrote the census.
Maybe you pulled it from somewhere.
The census, but hey, it's all right, yeah. And that makes it even harder for us to get back up to our record numbers. But those are numbers that we gathered from our application. So if I went ahead and asked Ray Meyer from the construction department what the actual numbers under permits were, we might see more. But I didn't do that. I just did it from the review of applications that we have.
Can't you read? I don't think so. Do you have any paper copies so we can look at it?
I don't.
The letters are so small. We have, either one has been. If we turn the lights off. TVs are too small.
TV is too small.
Somebody else can get a paper or something.
Michael, would you like to come up here?
Are there printouts?
No, there are not any printouts.
Okay, so move on.
Okay. I think some of the statistics that we're seeing in Jersey City are not very different from the statistics that we're seeing in other major cities in the United States, which is that the middle class is shrinking. There's been I think a 9% loss of middle class people who are what I would say middle class, I'll call it just those who are making at level at the median income. Huge increases in households making over $200,000 and increases in households at poverty level and below. Some of these things are not actually that surprising for a major city in the United States. I'm going to kind of breeze through some of these just so you can get an idea of some of the things that we looked at when we were writing our ordinance. The families that are the most impacted are the female head of householder alone with children. And so we saw that the groups that were the most, I guess, vulnerable were, I guess, moms or other children who are related, is what the language is used, that have 3 or 4 children. So we're looking at 3 to 4 person households. And why that's important is because when you look further in the ordinance, we do have language that specifies unit type for bedrooms. And so we tried to take into consideration who were the more vulnerable population in Jersey City. You can kind of see we're also seeing increases in the size households. So just so you have an idea, family household versus non-family household, these are census words that the census uses. Family household are those who are related to each other. They could be legal, blood, whatever. And non-family households are those who are not related to each other. So in that instance, just very, I guess, kind of anecdotally, you're looking at shares, right? So that might be 3 or 4 different people who are sharing a 3-bedroom apartment. And we're seeing huge increases in that. I don't have this slide, but we are seeing slight increases in what you would consider, what New York City actually considers overcrowding, which is more than 1.5 occupant per room.
Tanya, can you go back to that?
Yeah.
What are the circles in red? What are you?
Well, I just wanted to point out that what we're seeing, basically the households that we're seeing the most increases in.
Just read it to them.
Oh, sorry.
It's the family 3-person and 4-person household on the top, and the non-family 2, 3, and 4-person household on the bottom red circle.
They're increasing?
So like from
Yeah, so-
2010 to 2017, a 4-person non-family household, that means 4 people who are not related to each other, increased by 60%. So what you are most likely seeing are 4 people not related to each other sharing an apartment. That's our biggest increase, which it speaks a lot to affordability, correct? More people need to share an apartment in order to afford the rent. The rental cost burden, what's interesting about this, at least for us, and maybe this is something that doesn't make sense, I think, just naturally, the people who are experiencing the greatest rental cost burdens are those in the, basically the poorer parts of Jersey City. So those who are making less money are experiencing more of a rental cost burden. I think I have a map for this, it's a little bit better. Right, so this actually, I know it's hard for a lot of people to see, but this is a bar graph of basically just kind of what I said. But for reference, 45% of all renters in Jersey City experience household rental burden income, which means that they're spending more than 30% of their household income on rent or housing costs. I pulled this slide out, and I actually think it's important because I've heard some of you, and if you're looking at households, these are people who own their houses and don't have a mortgage, which are most likely people who have lived in that house for 30 years, 35 years, and those folks are experiencing the highest rent burden. They're paying 35% or more of their income, whether that be Social Security or whatever, on housing related costs.
Are those renters or homeowners?
Homeowners. So
they're mortgage paid.
right, those are people without mortgages. Now these are most likely older folks who've paid off their homes. There was a huge increase in that population on people who are paying 35% or more of their monthly income on housing costs. So yeah, maybe taxes, utilities, things of that nature.
Taxes are the biggest part of that expense for the house. That's why they're all moving out of Jersey.
And what is that percentage? What is that number?
It increased at least by, this is the census, right? From 2010 to 2016, it increased by close to 40%.
What it's saying, the slide is saying is that paying 35% or more in cost, this is for a housing unit without a mortgage, it increased by 38%, that category.
Do we know what their income levels are? That population?
No, that would take a lot more analysis.
Now, is this still 2010 to 2017, or
This is
2012 to 16?
No, this is
10 to 16.
10 to 16.
Change between 10 and 16.
Who drew up all these things? Where did all this information come from?
From the census, from the American Community Census Survey. These are the latest estimates of 2017, the 5-year estimates. And I pulled this out because I think that at least when, for myself at the planning board, all the time when we're reviewing applications, you'll constantly hear there's too many studios, there's too many 1-bedrooms, so I think we wanted to get an idea of what actually was on the market. And as you can see that the largest increase of units that have changed are the 3-bedrooms and the no-bedrooms, studios. So there was at least from the 2010 to 2017, the no bedrooms or the studios, the number of them increased by 24%. So I'm going to jump into the actual ordinance itself. But before I do, I guess I want to, is there any questions about what I talked about? I know I went through it very quickly. I know you guys have limited time, so I don't want to waste your time. But just let me know if there's any questions before we move on. Okay.
Could we just get, after this meeting, a copy of that presentation?
I can give you a copy of the presentation and also the housing element. We just updated our housing element. Really, these are just kind of tidbits from the housing element itself that we were able to use to kind of base our ordinance off of. Okay, so inclusionary zoning. There are, sure.
I mean, they're still slides, but they're less
They're wordy.
subtle.
They
They're
look
more
like this.
words and subtle.
So if you have an application and you are asking for a C or a D variance, or you are asking for a redevelopment plan amendment, and any of those results in the ask of 5 or more units, or an additional 5,000 square feet of residential, and it's over 30 units, whether you start at over 30 units or you get over 30 units with your increase, you trigger this ordinance. So before I go any further, that's probably the most confusing part. Does that make sense?
So what's C and D variances?
C and D variances. So a D variance is use, height, density, FAR, floor area ratio. Basically, it's an intensity, number of units, right? What you're permitted. So like in the R1 zone, which is a 1 and 2 family zone, if you were going to get a 3 family house, you'd be requesting a use variance. So that's a D variance. That's just a letter that's used in the statute that we reference. A C variance is a bulk variance, like a side yard setback, a rear yard setback. And why we included it is that sometimes when you're asking for a rear yard setback, like let's say in instances where we don't have a density standard, which is our neighborhood commercial zone, and you have to have a 15-foot rear yard setback and you're asking for a variance from it, you are just by default getting additional units because now you've got more building mass. So that's why we also used 5,000 square feet. You wouldn't, even though it seems like it because you're getting additional units, it's still contemplated as a bulk variance. And redevelopment plan amendments, I'm sure you're more than familiar with, unfortunately.
In other words, include there as C and D if they're not less than 5 units or less than 5,000 square feet, they're not required.
Right, there's I would say a room.
Yeah.
Some room. And so the exemptions, like I said, are 30 units or less, projects that are undertaken by the Housing Authority, and rezoning initiated by the city, which is, as you know, we're going to go through very soon, a master plan which will inevitably result in a lot of new zoning.
Okay, 30 units total, 30 units or 30 units additional?
So the exemption 30 units total, right? Yeah, because when I see that the total, that's what they say.
So for example, I think that Marcellus right now is on the agenda, street redevelopment plans, 47 units as of right. With the changes, the amendments at 69, would that fall under this current policy if it was applied?
Yes.
It would, okay.
Any building with 30 units or greater would be caught within this.
Don't you think you're gonna drive a lot of developers out of the city with all these rules and regulations that are coming up over the last couple of weeks? Speak to some of the developers, they've had it. I mean, we need affordable housing, it's well known, but I think the city's pushing everybody, and they're pushing these developers to saying, goodbye Jersey City. Have you spoken to any of them? Have you had any of them sit down with you?
Yes, we have, absolutely.
Yeah, which ones?
We
A lot of different attorneys on behalf of their developers as well as developers themselves have reached out. I think that what we try to do is create a balanced plan that will look to create affordable housing, but also make it not so onerous that they would actually leave and not develop in the city. We believe that this allows for both. It allows for it to be developed. It absolutely makes it financially viable and can actually create affordable housing. Yet it is a plan that is intended to actually create affordable housing. That is the goal.
Two of the developers that we worked with actually are Cary and Forest City, and that's because they are currently in the they have 20% on-site affordable housing, and they're using the ordinance that we have right now that regulates it. So they actually had a lot of really fantastic insight because they've been doing it, going through the process. So
they both also had just for full information on that. They both also had ERS. State incentives, right, that were tens of millions, I think $41 million in one case, and then And then the other one, and then they both got tax abatements of, it was either 25 or 30 years with the requirement for 20%. So they were, they certainly are familiar with it, but they also benefited from the incentives that were provided by the city and the state. Can we go back to the last slide? I just want to ask, the other exemptions, projects undertaken by Housing Authority and rezoning initiated by city. Can you explain that just a little bit?
Which one?
The two exemptions, projects undertaken by.
But generally, the Housing Authority, has a mandate, and their mandate isn't constructing market rate housing.
Okay.
So
so all their projects are exempt.
I can't imagine the JCHA coming in with a project that's 100% market rate housing and asking for another. I don't even think legally they would be.
It doesn't meet their own mandates, so it didn't seem relevant.
And rezoning initiated by city is that there's some leeway because, as you know, you've seen before redevelopment plan amendments or new zoning that takes into consideration different bonuses that we've built into the plan, or just rezoning that we think is really more appropriate, kind of what we're hoping to do when we get this master plan and we move forward with a lot of what I call zoning fixes. It's really just do a zoning correction. So I think a lot of our zoning that will happen after the master plan will be a zoning correction and maybe not necessarily a rezoning or zoning for the future, although there will be definitely elements of that.
Well, I think this ordinance is really set up to talk to, a request for upzoning, request for amendments from the development community. And what we're talking about here is an instance where it could be a request from any of one of you all, or city planning looking at a part of the city that really has maybe antiquated zoning, and then would work with the council person. All rezonings go through this body. So we wanted to make sure that had the ability to look at it for whatever it needs, and not specifically, that doesn't mean it cannot put affordable housing in, it certainly can, but we wanted rezonings that are initiated by the council and the administration to be able to look at what the needs are of that community that have nothing to do with the development community within the area. We already, by practice, do not upzone any, we're not putting it upzoning that doesn't offset through some form of a bonus. That's something that we haven't brought to you in a very long time, something that we're not getting something back. So that part of the conversation is something that we want to work through with the council, and we would like to continue to do that. But we don't want the ability of any of us in this room to want to rezone an area due to antiquated zoning to be hindered by this ordinance.
So the actual, I guess, meat and potatoes is that when you do trigger the ordinance, you are required to have 20% on-site affordable. What that looks like is 5% of that is what is low income, or 30 to 55% of the AMI, a minimum of 5% moderate, 50 to 80% AMI, and a maximum of 10% workforce, which is 80 to 120 AMI. 35% of those units are allowed to be studios or one bedrooms. That's a max, and all units have to be income restricted for 30 years. So we had a conversation last week, actually. The numbers that I have in the census that I've done through my housing element are not the most updated numbers that HUD has for median income. And for income limitations for what would be 80 to 50, or 50 to 80, or 30 to 50. So I did have my staff do basically a very quick Zillow search to see at least what the average rents were by zip code for 2 and 3 bedrooms, and how that's changed from 2017 to 2019. So I guess just as an example, so the conversation that we had was that somebody making 120% of the AMI would be able to afford up to $3,000 a month in rent, and how would that person have a need for affordable housing? So a 3-person bedroom, which again, let's go back to what I said earlier, that is more likely, those are the families that are,
at least the most in need, that have at least 2 to 4 children. In 2019, 3-bedroom for 07302, the average rent for April was $4,823. That was for a 3-bedroom downtown. Now in 07310, which I believe is mostly cast iron, right? 07310, $5,137. And so how that's changed in 2017 for the same month, which is April, the 3-bedroom in 2017 in 07302 was renting for $3,850. There are no numbers for 07310 in 2017 because the developments weren't. I think it's mostly cast iron logs. And I guess just so there's more conversation, the 2-bedroom in April 2019 for 07302 is $3,995. That's the average that Thillo is asking. And so obviously there's always fluctuation throughout the year. So the lower number on that end is $3,661. That was the beginning of the year for 07302. That's a family making 120% of the AMI, which is, I think the numbers that we got was like 103 or something, $100,000. Salary of a person who's starting to teach in the Jersey City Public Schools is $56,000. Police is just about the same. I can tell you how much some of my staff makes. But really that's what that whole segment and population was aimed at. Anicia says it way more prolifically than I do. But the reality is that there's a whole conversation about gentrification, and which is a word nobody likes, it's a red line word. But what we've seen is where the most amount of population is being displaced, obviously, is in 07302. And so I guess the conversation is really who has the right to live where.
Right, and that, I mean, looking at trying to make sure that all incomes can live in all parts of the city as much as possible. Obviously, you can't solve for that completely, but the fact that is that this ordinance helps to create middle class housing throughout the city, not just low income housing. It looks to create both.
So the 30,
Go ahead.
the 35%, right, is, I guess it's safe to say that they can put all studios at the 35%, or is there going to be a definite mix of that 35%? Because I see it say max either studios or 1-bedrooms, but
That's
is it possible that they can say, I want all 35% studios?
And the way the ordinance is currently written, that first 35% could be.
All studio.
Yes, if that's a change you would want, we would be open to those changes. Obviously, we're here to listen, but this is just saying that only 35% of the total units would be the combination of studios and 1-bedrooms, meaning that you have a significant amount of 2 bedrooms and above.
So is there any way that we could put in that there, just like we put 5%, 10%, is there any way that we can do 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms the same way for the rest of the 65%?
Sure, we would just want to, I would just caution about being overly prescriptive because due to market changes over time, they need to be able to vary the sizes. But I think what you're worried about is getting all 35% studios, we can certainly put in something.
2 bedrooms,
Yeah,
65%.
yeah.
So is it safe to say that the council here all fall into that 5% or 30 to 50%?
I think we're below the 30%.
I think we're below too. I don't really know where this goes. Did you know what's out? I heard you was in that petition.
Well, it's household income.
Personal finances, that's, you should probably counsel the tax attorney.
Wow, wait. Councilman, I know you had a question.
So the max of 10% workforce is 120 AMI.
Yeah.
But let me ask it simple. Then now, minimum 5% of low income, 30 to 50. But what about the below the 30?
We see that as really the purview of the housing authority.
Housing authority.
Yes.
They gotta take care of that below the 30. That's what you mean, right?
Correct.
The housing authority, they have a plan to build new affordable housing.
What was the question?
The housing authority, they have a plan to build low income, very, very low income housing.
That is the majority of what their housing is made up of. That is their-
I mean, that they, I know that made up for that, but I mean, they have a plan to build.
Build more, is what he
Build
said.
more.
New.
You'd have to, we would have to bring in the housing authority for you to talk about that.
So, city side wise, inclusionary, we're not worried about the below the 30, that's what you mean.
We're talking about in bonus zoning for market rate developments. So we're talking about incorporating in existing or new proposed market rate buildings a certain percentage of on-site affordable housing, and these are the percentages that we're proposing.
So in other words, if somebody in very low income, under 30 AMI, they have no chance to leave market rate building inside with other affordable housing, not other affordable housing units.
It's not prohibited, and later you'll see that when we talk about the reliefs, we tell that to be taken into consideration when looking at whether or not you can qualify for a buyout. I'll talk to you about it just a little bit further down the
Okay.
road, but yeah. So there's three mechanisms for relief. One is offsite, the other is buyout, and the other is community benefit.
But let's be clear before we talk about what those mechanisms are, that the ordinance calls for 20% on site. And if you are to trigger the, if your request for additional zoning is triggered by this ordinance, the only option that you have without being granted relief is 20% on site. Every option that Tani's about to speak about needs to be granted to you. You have to prove the need, and then it has to be allowed by the city. So the only option that you can get without asking for that relief is 20% on site.
So each one of these requires a fiscal analysis, which is an administrative fee paid for by the developers. I did consult with NW. Their suggestion was $5,000, so that's what's written into the plan, a $5,000 administrative fee to cover the fiscal analysis. Now, obviously, it does not say in the ordinance, and nor am I saying that it needs to be NW. It's whoever the fiscal team that you guys basically hire and contract with is. And they need to really kind of show in that fiscal analysis is the value of the offsite based on compared to the required onsite. So one of the planning board commissioners actually came up with what I think is actually a really great thing that I thought was really interesting, is that not just that must it be constructed within the same ward. I mean, you'll see this in I'm assuming you've seen the ordinance, that it should be constructed within the same buyout category. So I don't actually think I have a picture of the map here. I don't know if you guys got the map. I assume you did.
Yeah, you sent the map, it's a black and white, we're not going to see any difference.
We sent it in color, but I don't get scanned.
So make an extra 9 color.
You can send the colored copy electronically to Marlene, she'll print it out.
Yeah, just when you have black and white, I don't even know what it's going to talk about.
Or you know what? I love that.
We got a meeting Thursday at 5 o'clock with the Airbnb.
Yeah.
So the comment from the planning board commissioner was that the replacement for offsite should be within the same tier, which is actually very much apples to apples in that case, not just within a ward, which was more of a political conversation. Payment in lieu, so I do have this fiscal analysis, I guess you could say.
So just to be clear, what Tanya was saying is there are 3 mechanisms to, if you're asking for relief from building 20% on site. One is you build the same amount of required units, but you can build them off site, either in the same ward or within the same tier. That's one option. We can discuss that, how we want to do that. Payment in lieu is the second option. So meaning you would pay a fee instead of building the unit on site. Though the plan has a mandatory 5% minimum in any of the scenarios that must be built on site.
So payment in lieu, what you you do have in your hands is a fiscal analysis that I asked NW to calculate, which would be the cost of the land value per unit. It's tied to very closely, basically, they did it based on median rent, but it's very close, if not almost exactly, to what our map is based on, which is the percentage of rent that you're paying from your income, the gross percentage of rent. So like I said earlier, if you're paying a higher percentage of rent on your income, you're going to be in the green or the greenish. And if you're paying a low percent of your rent on your income as a census tract, you're going to be in the red, which are the higher value.
So just to be clear, what you're looking at is the map of a five-tiered buyout payment in lieu map. And there are 5 different tiers, the red being 100,000, orange 75,000, yellow 50,000, light green 35,000, dark green 25,000. And that map, those different colors, corresponds to rent burden.
That's 100,000 per unit?
Per unit.
No wonder everybody's leaving the city, they don't want to develop here. You gotta be kidding.
You know, actually, this is finish the year things now. Then we're going to discuss.
The numbers actually that we came into originally, you can kind of see on your page 2, the numbers that they've suggested is the land value per unit based on the tiers. And we started out higher at 25 and went all the way to 150, and they came back with these numbers kind of helping us hone in on more appropriate numbers.
Safe free.
What?
Let's go on to community benefit.
So the last one is a relief is a community benefit. You would have a fiscal analysis to determine the value of the proposed community benefit in comparison to the value that you're gaining as a result from the zoning. It can only be done in redevelopment plan amendments. And the eligible community benefits are things that we're seeing a lot within our, basically in what we're asking for in our plan amendments. Public schools, rec facilities, fire, police station, public transit. A really good example of this is the St. Lucy's homeless shelter, which rebuilt the shelter, actually and also included on-site affordable and new transitional affordable housing.
And just to be clear, to use this benefit, it has to be written into a redevelopment plan amendment, which would mean it has to be passed by you, the council. So you would be able to determine whether that was something that you felt was more important than affordable housing. You would not, pass that change of a redevelopment plan amendment if you did not feel that that was a worthy benefit.
And finally is the approving authority, which is the restructuring that we did of Chapter 188, which is your affordable housing chapter of the code. We basically, after conversations with community development team in-house, other cities who have been doing similar things, San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, along with our specialists that we hired. And you guys, I don't think you've met her yet. Beth hasn't been here. But we did hire affordable housing specialist to work with us to help us write this zoning. The approving authority would now fall under AGDC, the Division of Affordable Housing. There would be a director for that, and they would review the applications that come in. It would be the director of a Division of Affordable Housing, AGDC or designee, director of community development, which is right now Carmen, and JCRA person for redevelopment plans. They would review it. You'd come up with an affordable housing agreement, which is already highlighted within 188. The changes that we asked for kind of tighten those things up. And then they would have the agreement. You take that agreement, and you'd either go to the planning board, the zoning board with that agreement, and either the application would be denied or approved, or it would come to council and be, voted on and denied or approved. So it's not really the final say. The final say really rests with either the legislative body or the planning board in the case of the zoning applications.
And so to be clear, what Tani's talking about is the next ordinance that is on the agenda, which is ordinance number 5, which is an amendment to section, or chapter 3, adding the division of affordable housing to HEDC, but also section 188, which talks about compliance. So that's where compliance already was. It was the Office of Tax Abatement and Compliance. So this creates the Division of Affordable Housing, which is asked to do multiple things. One is the compliance side of all the affordable housing. It is negotiating and writing the affordable housing agreements, but it also is doing something that I think is very important, which is being tasked with being basically the keepers of the information regarding what the state of our city's housing is. They would be tasked with doing a report every 5 years on the state of the city's housing. So that would talk about what is our current housing, what are the rents, what type of affordability are we seeing, where are the gaps in terms of affordability, which would help inform all policy decisions related to affordable housing. And I think that is really important because I think, as you can see, making these decisions is not very easy, and you need the data to be able to do it. So in this case, city planning took that on through the update of the housing element, but I think it can even go further, which is identifying those gaps. And in doing research on how other municipalities do this type of work, they often have a Bureau of Housing or a Department of Housing or something of that nature, and that's where that is housed. So this is an attempt to do that, to consolidate it and have affordable housing policy and compliance under one entity.
So let me also explain to you that Chapter 188 in its current iteration would not be able to enforce the inclusionary zoning. It's very limited to tax abatements, to redevelopment plans. Our changes incorporate the inclusionary zoning as one of those things that now is able to have compliance over, authority over for the,
Right, so what we found is there's a gap. There's a current gap, which is that if someone goes to the zoning board, they come to Tanya, and they go to the zoning board, and they voluntarily propose 2 units of affordable housing. Currently, there is a little bit of a hole that they don't fall under any of our mechanisms to do enforcement and compliance. So this is to solve for that, but as well be able to create an entity that can do compliance for all the projects that will get triggered by this ordinance. With the current Office of Tax Abatement and Compliance, the way it's written, it can be read to be only projects that have pilots, and that's currently what they're enforcing now, are projects with pilots. So we want to make sure we're doing affordable housing compliance, whether a project has a pilot or not. Obviously, with the current climate, where we're not giving pilots, we need to make sure we can do that compliance for all projects that have affordable housing.
And Chapter 188 also outlines what should be in the affordable housing agreement. And so what we added to that was that now the affordable housing agreement had to specify the bedroom counts, where the bedrooms would be located, and what the specific income restrictions would be on those units. So we did add a couple more details to what would be in the affordable housing agreement.
As just a piece of housekeeping, we noticed that for somehow the last page of that ordinance is left off of this, so we'll make sure that we talk to everyone and get you guys the full piece. There was one additional page, I'm not sure why it's not there.
This is specific questions on that point.
Yeah.
Would you be able to include in the provisions something that explicitly references the allowable rent increase under any affordable housing agreement? Because one of the things I think we're seeing is that you peg rent as 120% AMI, and AMI goes up 10% just because of the way housing's changing, and the developers will pass on a 10% rent increase. Does that make sense?
I believe it's tied to HUD regulations,
Yeah.
but we can make sure there's language that.
We're in the middle of,
Okay.
there's like 5 or 6 examples in downtown now.
Okay.
Those people are in good back and forth.
Yeah, we can do that.
There's a fairly game how much it can go up each year, based on AMI. Or not.
Yeah, we'll probably try to tie it to the existing rules.
Yeah.
Right, and that was my understanding, that it would be tied to basically the same. I only know it within the framework of rent control, just the percentage that is allowed to go up each year.
But we'll
Yeah, I just wanna-
make sure there's language.
Sure.
added for that.
Completed?
So now, we can ask it?
Yeah.
Council, if I may,
You go ahead.
I can send everything.
I'd like to, so that's the ordinances being presented, 3.4 and 3.5 by the administration. And myself and Councilperson Waterman have introduced ordinance 3.4 and 3.5, and were presented by the administration. And myself and Councilperson Waterman are introducing ordinance 3.2, which we have a different approach to the affordable housing and inclusionary zoning, and in all honesty, worked with Kevin Walsh and Eric Dobson for Fair Share Housing and the statewide NAACP on this as well. Frankly, it's been over a year, I think, right? Been in discussions, and they drafted this ordinance with our input and talking about what we thought we'd like to see in some sort of inclusionary zoning policy that the city adopted. I'd like to call up Kevin Walsh and Eric Dobson.
Tanya, before you go, hold on, I have a question for Tanya.
They're not leaving. They're staying.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. This is Kevin Walsh from Fair Share Housing and Eric Dobson, who are also with Fair Share Housing, and they worked with us in establishing this ordinance that is being presented to the council, ordinance 3.2. And they're going to go through the nuts and bolts of this ordinance with you. And I say this with no antagonism intended, or it's a starkly different ordinance and very different elements there. You also have two resolutions on here with Resolution 1040 and Resolution 1041. 1040 is a resolution that establishes a committee, and I think all of you, Marlene had reached out to all of you about establishing an ad hoc committee. Resolution 10.40 would establish an ad hoc committee to investigate on amendments to the city's zoning code regarding inclusionary zoning. The intention there would be to look at the two different ordinances and essentially like Congress or the state legislature as well, to kind of have a committee to reconcile differences and to be able to establish a uniform policy that the council as a whole could agree upon, whether it's incorporating elements from both ordinances or incorporating other elements similar to what we're doing with the Airbnb in that regard. It's Eric Walsh. I'm sorry, Kevin Walsh, who's the executive director with Fair Share Housing, and Eric Dobson.
Thank you so much.
And what's your title?
Director of Community Engagement.
Director of Community Engagement. And then the resolution 10.41 is a resolution referring ordinance 3.2, ordinance 19-054, which is agenda number 3.2 on the council agenda, referring it to the planning board for them to review, and the ordinance the ordinance that myself and Councilperson Waterman are introducing on inclusionary zoning. So I'm going to turn it over to them so they can share with you the nuts and bolts and also give you their take on inclusionary zoning and their expertise. They've worked, if you can give a little background, but they've worked with municipalities throughout the state of New Jersey, establishing inclusionary zoning policies through numerous municipalities throughout the state of New Jersey, including Newark, Hoboken, and other municipalities within Hudson County as well. I believe Union City too, right? Did you work with?
Yep.
Union City as well on that stuff. So I'll turn it over to Kevin, and then we'll have continue the conversation.
Thank you. So as the council president said, we Fair Share Housing Center's been working on affordable housing in New Jersey since 1975, and in the past 3 or 4 years, we've worked with and entered into agreements with about 280 of the state's 565 municipalities, almost all of which have various levels of inclusionary zoning required. And Councilman Boggiano, I believe, we talk to a lot of developers day in and day out. Sometimes we work on the same side of them. Sometimes we fight with them over affordable housing issues. And they, they always, as day turns to night, they complain about the expense. And I'll tell you our experience with how it usually works out.
I'm all for affordable housing, but this is not the way to do it. This is legalized shaking down developers. I've gotten calls from several of them, I mean several big ones, that live in Jersey City.
I got it.
And
Well,
they're getting out of here because this is what, charging $100,000 an apartment? Come on.
that was per affordable unit. That wasn't per market rate unit. That was for the affordable unit. But I'll tell you, we work all throughout the state with some of the big players in this area, Hartz, Mack-Cali, Toll Brothers, where they are jumping at the opportunity to provide 20% on-site affordable housing, including for very low-income households. Well,
I mean, come on.
I'm not endorsing anything that they've done or haven't done. I'm just saying developers and the economics of development, when they can get the market rate rents that they have, make it possible for them to provide affordable housing much more aggressively than has been proposed. And the mayor's proposed ordinance, as I understand it, would let half of all of the units go to households that are earning close to or over $100,000 per year. When state law permits affordable housing ordinances that provide no affordable housing at 80 to 120, but instead focus on the households that where the need is greatest, going down to 30% of median income, most often with no public subsidies. When your city gives very substantial density increases, it more than compensates the developers for the affordable housing that they can provide, and they can still make lots of money doing it. And in the event that they cannot do it, there are public subsidies available in Trenton with money most years still left on the table that the federal government recaptures for the purpose of providing affordable housing. And so if there is a developer that makes a good faith claim that it cannot provide 20% affordable housing, including to people with very low incomes, maybe in this area making $20,000 or $30,000 per year, there are public subsidies available from the federal government that can be used for that purpose. Under the ordinance that was proposed, it would help households. For a 4-person household, it would pay up to $3,100 per month. And that's not what we usually think about when we talk about affordable housing. The ordinance that Councilman Navarro and Councilwoman Waterman have introduced, completely consistent with state law, would provide for households making $22,000 per year for a 3-person household with a rent of about $700 per month. And given the market rate rents and what they are, that is something that could be expected and that I'm confident would be produced by developers without a public subsidy, but the public subsidy would be available if it were needed. The other ordinance that the Council President and Councilperson Waterman have introduced or would introduce or are supporting, I guess, would generally require the units to be provided on site. And although if it were the council's decision to do so, it could take different approaches. It is 100% legal. It will be upheld by courts every day of the week for you simply to require developers to provide affordable housing on site. End of story. No buyouts, no community benefits, nothing like that. You could require it. They will do it. They'll squawk for a while and then they'll figure it out. And we've recently litigated with developers in Hoboken over this very issue. And they won in the trial court, and then they lost at the appellate court with Judge Fuentes from Newark saying that the ordinance was absolutely lawful. And the developers are still fighting because they will fight these. It may impact their profits, but it does not impact their profits in a way that is legally a problem. They're not entitled to make the maximum profit. They're entitled to make a profit that does not lead to a taking. And in New Jersey, we have tens of thousands of homes built through inclusionary development without public subsidies by giving developers a density increase. And when you see Jersey City providing 100+ units per acre. It is a missed opportunity for you to not require affordable housing, including down to 30% of median income. It's too bad that it's taken this long, but with each day and each development that gets through, you are missing opportunities, and every day of the week you could require affordable housing, and it will pass legal muster. And the people of Jersey City, as I understand it, are crying out for this sort of thing.
Before we just do it, when you say the public subsidy, which one is included, the public subsidy?
The public subsidies that are available, Councilman, are federal low-income housing tax credits. It is a non-competitive tax credit that is available to developers upon a demonstration that their project would be infeasible without it. But it's almost never used because the developers can make it work. Just to give you an example, if you went from here to Caucus, I get the rents there are probably a little bit lower, probably a different type of construction. Every development in Caucus going forward is required to provide 20% affordable housing, no public subsidies, no questions asked. Every single development anywhere in the Meadowlands automatically required to provide 20% affordable housing with the income ranges that are in the proposed, in the other affordable housing ordinance, no questions asked. Every day of the week they can make it happen. If you were to go right now to any of the developments that are receiving state subsidies of any sort, brownfields money, on New Jersey transit land, in a transit village, not even on state-owned land, state law requires them to provide 20% affordable housing. So it is, and in densities that are probably 20% of the densities that you are agreeing to in Jersey City. There is absolutely, positively no question that you could require affordable housing in every single development that is receiving substantial density.
See,
When you
those
say,
are- no, go ahead.
when you say substantial, like what's the percentage, right? So let's say it's 100 units. Is it a 10%, 15, 20% when you say substantial?
Councilman, are you asking for the percentage of affordable housing or the percentage of
No,
density?
you said, of density.
Yeah, there are, certainly when you take a parcel that somebody can do 10 or 20 or 30 units per acre on, and you increase it to 100 units per acre, or even 50, 60 units per acre, no doubt that you could require them to provide affordable housing.
This ordinance triggers at 10 units or more.
But this ordinance triggers at 10 units or more.
In contrast to the administration's, which is 30 units.
And this would also, and this is again completely consistent with state law, would also require that the units remain affordable for 99 years. And they don't have to be lifted at 30 years. It can, and the only reason it's 99 years is because there's a principle in law called the rule against perpetuities, which says that you can't have an interest in land for more than 99 years. But it can be for 99 years, and then it re-ups upon each time that the property is transferred. It's another 99 years. Did that answer your question?
Not really, but yeah, I was just, you said substantial like a few times. I just wanted to know what kind of.
Yeah, the densities, throughout the state, anything over 6 units per acre can get an affordable housing obligation. So if somebody's coming in and doing garden apartments, they can be required to do 20% affordable housing. When you're doing a 10-story building, you can be required to do affordable housing.
And do you know where Jersey City, lands on the 562 municipalities, like in land costs?
Certainly land costs are high, and I would expect that the land costs would adjust because they may need to adjust in order to make this work. But that's the market work, and there will be developers who maybe can't make a deal work without a public subsidy. But if the choice is between gentrification with some affordable housing and a curb on gentrification to hedge against it a little bit, I don't think it's a close call policy-wise. It's not my vote, but that's the position my organization takes, and all throughout the state, these sorts of things are happening without much concern for the developer's ability to make money, in part because in most other places, the developers are jumping at the opportunity. In places with less friendly development systems, where there's a hostility to any change at all, and that's many of the municipalities throughout the state, developers will come in and volunteer to provide 20% affordable housing as a way to build it. So when a municipality allows development to occur without affordable housing obligations, it results in an escalation in land costs. But there can also be a de-escalation in land costs when the government exercises its legitimate regulatory responsibilities. And there's no doubt under New Jersey law that ensuring a municipality provides affordable housing is part of a legitimate regulatory approach. And so it may take some time to adjust. I'm not saying that this is the sort of thing that, any sort of thing you do. When state law started to require in certain size buildings that there be smoke alarms and fire suppression systems, the development community squawked for 5 years. And there's still arguments over fire safety in different kinds of buildings. But they can adjust. And I'm not saying to impose unreasonable expectations on developers, but I am saying that the cost of development in Jersey City can very reasonably be that at least 20%. We have towns that are doing 30% set-asides with developers, that at least 20% of the homes be made affordable so that people who have lived in Jersey City for a long time don't get forced out. And the people who are being impacted the most are not households that are making $100,000 a year. 90% of renters who earn below $20,000 a year are cost burden. 90%. That is overwhelming. That is where the need is. And if you wanted to put together a plan that focuses on where the need is greatest, focus at people at 30, 40% of median income. Focus on innovative financing schemes where Trenton, who would love, politically this is a big win. Trenton has housing funds. Incentivize the use of those housing funds by inclusionary developers so that you're not relying 100% on the private sector if in fact they demonstrate that they can't do it. But ask Governor Murphy. Governor Murphy has $60 million in his budget right now for affordable housing. And there's a lot of folks that will be jostling for that. But you could layer that into an inclusionary development. You could require inclusionary developers to provide affordable housing for people with disabilities in supportive housing environments. There's a million things like that, creative things that you could do because you hold all the cards. You're the ones that are controlling whether they get the density or don't they get the density. You're the ones that are controlling whether they get an increased FAR or don't. And there's a million things that you could do to increase, to slow gentrification, to make gentrification occur if it's going to occur in an equitable fashion, and to do it in ways that consider what the greatest needs in the city. And state law not only permits you to do that, there's good, strong arguments that it requires you to do that.
What's FAR?
FAR is another way to control, to regulate the size of a building on a particular lot.
What does it stand for?
Floor area ratio.
Oh, okay.
So,
Can I just say, just a couple of elements I just want to knock out, which is the difference, 30 units as a trigger versus 10 units for this ordinance. As you said, if you want to address that 90% of the population that are cost burdened of the 30% AMI cost burden, was it 30% AMI?
People earning below 20,000, so it's a little bit less than 30%, but yeah.
That 50% of the units in this ordinance would focus on 0 to 50% of the AMI, versus, and the 50% would be in the 50% to 80% AMI. And the ordinance introduced by myself and Waterman, it doesn't allocate anything to the 80 to 120%, which, as was discussed, is in the 6-figure range based on our current AMI in the area. This one allows for phasing of the construction of the units. So, can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah. So one of the things that has happened in the past sometimes is that a for-profit developer will come in and say, "We're going to build 100 market rate units over here, and we're going to build 20 affordable units over there, And then you get to the end and you see that all the market rate units are done, but the affordable units ran into some trouble. And the market rate units proceed and the affordable housing, if it ever comes late. And so there's a principle in state rule and state regulations that say before a market rate developer can get 25% of the market rate units, it has to have started the affordable units. And but by the time the developer gets 50% of the market rate units, 50% of the affordable units have to be provided. And it keeps to stagger up like that, so that by the time the developer has done 90% of the market rate units, all of the affordable units are done. And it's a way to avoid all of the market rate units being done and none or too few of the affordable units being done.
The other thing I had is the affordability requirements would last for 99 years under this, as opposed to 30 years with the other ordinance. So, is that correct, 99 years?
99 years, and it would be re-upped each time there was a transfer of title.
Is there anything else you want to add?
Well, as a council, you're elected to represent all your constituents in the city, and not just throw your very low-income constituents away or lead them to the housing authority. It's sacrilegious and immoral to do something like that. And our concern is for those who've been here for generations, that because of housing policy and government relations have trapped them into those situations, and to care more about whether the developers are leaving opposed to the folks who've been here for 30 years. Our concern is the people. Developers are going to make their money no matter what. They're going to survive. But folks in Jersey City at the very low income level is not surviving. They're not surviving. And as a council, you have a responsibility to make sure you legislate or create ordinance or create policy that deals with all your constituents. Every last one of them, even the ones who are most wrong.
So council, if there's any questions in particular about that, but what the request is here from my councilperson Waterman can't be here because she had a planned vacation and trip away, so in terms of timing it was just inconvenient in that sense, but unfortunate rather I should say. And so the request on behalf of councilperson Waterman and myself is we have introducing all the ordinances, all of the ordinances, referring our ordinance to the planning board. There's a difference of opinion as to how referring the planning board, it's just something I recently learned about from Fair Share Housing, but looking to refer it to the planning board after introduction, as is the council can do, as been done in other municipalities as well. And then after introduction, and I'm not sure, I would defer to the city clerk and to the law department on this, we would want to establish the committee, but then essentially table all ordinances until the committees can kind of get together, the committee on inclusionary, ad hoc committee on inclusionary zoning, and to do some sort of reconciliation and work together to try to find kind of a unified ordinance after that would establish an inclusionary zoning policy for the city. So I would defer to the city clerk and the law department as to how best to table the matters after, but we want to introduce all of the ordinances essentially first. I know that's counter to the idea of introducing it, but if we would want to introduce it, because in order for it to get referred to the planning board, it has to actually be introduced to the...
Correct. And I would talk to Tanya and talk to her about when it could be heard by the planning board, and then publish it for public hearing after the planning board has had an opportunity.
I'm talking about tabling it after the introduction, the ordinance.
It's a nullity.
Well, we still want to go through the motions of doing that so that we can have it on the record.
Wait until second reading to decide if and how you're going to table.
It's not even a second reading ordinance if it's tabled prior to the close of the public hearing, because then it has to be re-advertised and the public hearing has to be scheduled. So if you introduce it and then I'm not directed to advertise it, there is no public hearing on it.
Could we defer them to a later date for a second reading hearing?
You would absolutely have to defer your version. Absolutely have to defer your version until the planning board does its thing. The others are in a different situation.
Could we defer all of them simultaneously?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm asking. If we could do that and defer them, so that way we could get the committee to reconcile
Right,
all the versions.
Then the council can vote on what it wants to vote on when the time comes.
Yeah.
So what is this? Make it clear, okay? So what are we gonna do?
So introduce the ordinances is my request is of the council.
So we're gonna introduce two.
Adopt
One
the resolutions.
Council, one from the planning department.
The others three.
Three, and another one is just a creative department, correct?
The other
And
one's-
another one is a resolution, so. We
Yeah,
have
there's
three
two.
ordinance.
Let me clarify. There's two ordinances
Yeah.
from the administration.
Yes.
One is on the inclusionary zoning policy itself. The other one is reorganizing to establish the Office of Affordable Housing Compliance.
Yes.
In my opinion, that if we're going to defer on the inclusionary zoning policies, then we should defer on the reorganization
So
too.
the three ordinances we're going to defer public hearing on, if that's
Correct.
the council's wishes on Wednesday.
That's my request to the council.
The resolution itself is the resolution is a companion to yours and councilperson Waterman's ordinances, which is 3.2.
Correct.
And what's
There
the
are two
other?
resolutions. One is to refer to the planning board, the ordinance. The second one is to establish a committee on inclusion,
Oh, yeah.
not committee on inclusionary zoning.
So.
Do we have that one yet?
It's essentially
Yeah,
like we did with the
two.
Airbnb.
Yeah, two resolution. One, we recommended the planning to review, and can we study this one? Last weekend, I really get upset about the city council, the version of the inclusion, and the city side. Before we put in this one, because we have to read, I don't know how many our council colleagues understand the difference of the two. Really, because some here is maybe 5 units, whatever, but here is 30 units is a big difference. And also other things, but I can say that when I see that the council side of the ordinance, the proposed ordinance, very good. Very good. I will give you credit for that. Mayor side, this audiovisual side of planning, they gives a lot of room to play, the developer can play. Very favorable to that, but politically, that is right. But on the other hand, if you want to deliver inclusion for the affordable housing, I like the council more. But the way Councilman Rich Bujano said, we have to look at the two sides, because all this year, these city council members, I'm not going to say the word brainwashed, but we misinformed by city planning department and some city lawyers who are a private lawyer. They said if they give to more than 5% affordable housing, they act like they lose money. We just passed a couple of months ago one of the projects, they only give to 6% affordable housing, and they all shake the guy. I get so pissed off here. I suppose that's true there. So planning department, first things you guys have to have, hire different financial consulting company, just talk about the real estate investment, because don't depend on XYZ company, because when he gives the numbers, I always scratch my head. So you guys have to be hired a new financial consulting company.
We don't hire the.
Councilman, yeah, we actually hired them.
Yeah,
right?
but
So
you guys come
attacking
up.
the staff, no attacking the staff. It wasn't.
No.
we approve the contract.
Yes,
The
but
contract,
come
it's
on.
the administration.
Come on,
They
head.
make the recommendation.
Yeah,
But-
put some recommendation, because you know what? I'm not feel comfortable. One of the finance company gives advice, I'm not really not happy with it. So please recommend the city council, you guys knows, they should be over time hire specific real estate to financial analyst consulting company that's required. I'm supporting 100% for that idea. In the meantime,
If we could just get back to this ordinance.
yes, so now we go to ordinance.
Yeah.
Yeah, we go back to ordinance.
Manny,
You actually, information or advice to council, really very impressed, really very impressed. But we have to understand Maybe good days, good real estate market, maybe it's perfect working. But if we market is go downside, some we're gonna have a problem too. You know, so, and also, when you have a 20% from like 10 units, it's gonna be a tough time sometimes, I know. Because your idea is a general idea, but we know there's some character of Jersey City. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna have some problems. So we have to adjust numbers. And really, so much. Your things nothing have that, other things, enforcement things one. And also your ordinance are confused. When you affordable housing, there are two different things. One, rental, one is housing, condo. So it's not clear when I read that. It's not clear between rental and housing. And this, yeah?
Between rental and condo.
Yes, condos or quad.
For sale, rental or for sale.
Yes, for
Buy
sale.
both.
Yes, but it's
Buy
not,
both.
yeah, clear. You know, so we gotta make it clear that part of it. And the city one is not really, or even more mess. You know, when more confusing. So I don't know, but my recommendation, before we first reading, second reading, do that, we should first set up a committee. We put this together with the company. Then we should come up with one draft ordinance, present the city council. First thing is that the proper way to do it. You know.
So what is your
My
suggestion?
suggestion is that I ask them.
Are you asking no ordinances come before the council?
Yes, just withdraw, and we set the committee first.
So we'll just do the resolution on the committee.
Yes.
Fair to
Yes.
everyone?
Yes, that's what we're supposed to do.
Before or after the Airbnb committee?
What are you talking about?
We're gonna be here all night on the Airbnb.
Robert, you say damn good. You know what? Now until we have. Can you say that again? Damn good.
All right.
Yeah, get it, come on.
Down again.
So let me just say, so we can have more than one committee.
Yeah.
We have a committee on rent control, we have a committee on Airbnb, we have a
We
committee
have
on
a
vacant
vacant lot.
properties, yeah.
They cannot. And then we have a budget hearing. We have
Yes.
like 4 different chapters.
So no, understand, but like, so timing wise, I would say in fairness to everybody's time and things, like, we should probably get through, but I'll let we should get the committee together and then decide that, the timetable on all of this, but I would say, from my perspective, I've given it a little thought already, that we need to complete the budget hearings, the rent control, the Airbnb, those are time sensitive issues, and then we can kind of figure out the rent controls, inclusionary zoning, and actually vacant lots well overdue.
Yeah, I'm telling you. And then not only that, like Councilwoman Mira, has she involved, what are they called? Bayfront committee, some people involved open space.
Yes.
I mean, how much we can do?
JCRA, we all have
Yes.
like appointments and
So
things like that.
please, don't rush, because whatever we create the ordinance going to impact the big time in Jersey City. I'm pretty sure this one
Also the
impact.
same committees too, Michael, so don't just single me out for my capacity.
who has committee?
I would appreciate that. You.
We all have
So-
multiple appointments.
So we have that, so now what I'm saying, we have a road of work we have. So my suggestion is that when we finish all those things, Airbnb, vacant lot, what else we have? Rent control and the budget hearing, after we finish, because we live without the inclusion almost 100 years, then we have started time to review all those things.
We can figure out a timetable and then work this out so it works for everyone's schedules around that.
Yeah, it's a
I also don't think that we don't want to slow roll this, right? This has been a pressing matter for a long time in Jersey City, and so we need to make it a priority. That's just my personal opinion on that. And so I'd like to be able to pass the resolution on a committee at the very least, get that moving, get a committee meeting for the first time to establish a timetable, just like we did with Airbnb. Obviously, there are 7 members of the council who've asked to be on that committee, and on inclusionary zoning, it would have to be sunshine, so it would have to be a public meeting, again, and another conversation in the public. I'm fine with having public conversations about this we love to have and continue to have, and we've worked closely with planning on the original version of the administration on everything that's good that's been in Jersey City. So, and with the law department to move forward in all of that. And then having developers come to a public hearing, having affordable housing advocates and fair share housing and other advocates come before provide testimony and information so that the council can make a sound policy and put that
Yes.
forward in a timely fashion. Personally, I'd love to see it get done before the summer is over. That's my,
Yeah, but also another one, Brian, the business that you know, because we have so many things have to be handled, you know what I'm saying? So I think we have to assign somebody, you know what I'm saying, to city lawyers on the whatever the planning board must have to be involved there, okay? To make sure that they're joined. When you set up a committee,
Say that again, somebody from the
law
city
department,
has to.
Law department and
all the
planning.
committees.
planning department must have to join, okay?
All of the committees.
Yes.
no, not all, no.
No.
Inclusionary zoning.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and another one, that the two resolution, one, creative things, one, ordinance, right? Creative, what's the, gosh, so many. What was it? Creative ordinance, 3-5.
Yes, they're both all tabled,
Yeah,
all
but I
removed.
think 3-5 has no problem with the past.
No, it's intended to enforce inclusionary zoning.
Let's talk about the voting on Wednesday.
Okay.
We don't, unless the administration is withdrawing it, it goes up for.
Okay, let me ask you
make a
something.
motion at the meeting.
Right.
Yeah,
3-5 is a create one of the division of affordable housing.
Yeah.
So I'll say this, if all ordinances aren't tabled or
Fine,
removed,
no
then the other one, I'll
Yeah.
speak for myself and Councilperson Waterman, will look to advance our ordinance, that's,
All right.
as well as the resolutions.
Okay, no problem.
Okay.
So they will go withdraw, right? Withdraw, we just only pass the
Well,
resolution.
So there's two things, it can be withdrawn, or the council can remove all ordinances after it's introduced, right? Correct? Am I correct?
Just
in
want to
my-
make sure.
Yeah, we'll confirm by Wednesday, yeah. Just probably time.
Okay.
What, are you gonna let us know,
We'll confirm.
before council meeting,
Yeah.
Wednesday, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Thank you, thank you.
I just wanted to, I know we're gonna assume the council fully agrees, we're gonna all do the committees, these are questions that I would love to address in the committee, but I did just wanna, I guess, maybe get started on some of the stuff that's on my mind, which is, the question for me that I'm curious, a core piece of what you were saying was to make it work is the added density. And my concern, at least, is, and I know downtown zoning, because that's what they're representing, is just some of these guys have so much zoning already. And so what would we have to give them to be able to make it work? So that's just on my mind, I just want to share that with you now, so you can kind of think about how do you put those two things together.
It doesn't have to be only density,
Right.
is the answer. And so it most often is density, but it doesn't have to always be.
Sure. Yeah.
Great.
In that
That's
creative
great.
process, exists in Council President Orlando's and George Waterman's ordinance too. The creativity doesn't lead because you're creating about 20% affordable housing. Creativity still exists. You can do it all different ways.
Good job.
Great question.
So your organization is a non-profit organization,
Yes, sir.
but where the funding come from to operate?
Mostly foundations and attorney's fees,
Oh,
litigation, we sue.
okay. Oh, you got the funding from when you sue somebody?
Yes, sir.
Oh, God. Scary.
Tanya, I need you, thank you. So we'll go from the top?
From the top.
Okay, well, I'm gonna take it from the top. All right, ordinance 3.1, it's an ordinance providing the section of Baldwin Avenue and Livonia Avenue
That's
South.
the perfect picture. Just
to
Named
Magnolia.
after James V. Pagnata.
Way.
give us a
Point
date.
somebody
He
else out.
taught me catechism in the 7th grade. He's been pastor for 45 years. And he's retiring. Better man, hard to find. Council members, we talked about 3-2, 3-3, 3-4,
No, it's not how some surprise somebody said.
3-5 was alluded to.
We're gonna withdraw 6. We got 5 numbers on this. I'll reach out to the council.
6 and 7 or just 6?
Course of coronation take it.
Yeah, sorry, 6 and 7.
Okay, 6
Yeah,
and 7.
I'm gonna reach out to the council.
No, no, no.
Okay. Number 3.8, an ordinance authorizing a different lease with Harwood Corporation for the leasing of 36 parking spaces located at 808 Livonia Avenue. 9 is an ordinance authorizing the execution of a rights of what use agreement between the City of Jersey City and New Singular Wireless PCS LLC to permit the installation of antennas and related communications equipment on existing utility poles and street light fixtures, and if necessary to install new or replacement street light fixtures and utility poles within certain public rights of way for purposes of providing telecommunication services.
So, this is so, Commissioner, when you have a new installation, we charge $750.
Yeah.
The $750, rest of 30 years, well, the fee will be changed. How do you do that? Because 30 years today, $750, but 30 years later, 25 years later, $750 is nothing maybe. Maybe good enough by $1, you know, so.
It's just the time of installation.
Yeah, just a one-time,
One time?
so you're saying if in 30 years from now, if they want to do the same thing
Yeah,
again?
and so 25 years later, they want
Yeah.
installation antenna somewhere.
Assuming-
And still we have to charge $750, or we charge different fee?
Assuming optimistically the law is the same 30 years from now, it would be another $750.
Yeah, it's hard to speculate now what the fee structure would be.
If we even need telephone poles and light fixtures to affix telecommunications equipment to in those days.
The future.
How does this affect the AT&T installations?
They're all separate, they're all doing their own thing, so they
On
can.
separate poles?
No, they run it along the existing poles.
So, yeah, some of them are an existing poles, some of them are new poles, some of them are on the wires themselves, so they compete with each other, certainly, because they're providing the same service in the city, but.
So it's only one per pole?
No.
Or is it possible that
It
AT&T,
can,
Singular,
yeah.
Sprint,
Yes.
Verizon, everybody's
They're all
gonna
strung up on the same pole.
be, and those are like the little boxes, right?
Yeah.
Same kind of,
Yeah, they each of these companies has a little bit different structure of what the thing looks like, but, you know, the vendors tell us that they're minimally noticeable for the most part.
Under FCC regulations, they're required to essentially play along with each other on the easements. So,
On to number 10. This is hard for me to speak this address. It is the property owned by Bill Gauguin, who sat here for 20 years next to me. It's an ordinance granting permission to the new owners to install at 972, 976 Summit Avenue. Planters, steps, and stoops, approximately 118 feet in length on Lincoln Street and 105 feet in length on Summit Avenue and 4 feet in depth along the public right-of-way on Lincoln Street and 2 3/10 feet in depth along the public right-of-way of Summit Avenue. This is a requirement of the planning board's approval for the site plan. There's Mr. Robert Ricciardi, who's been waiting here all night to speak with you if you have any questions on this.
Whose word is this?
This is D.
Word D. I spoke with the developer. I think that the zoning required, because when they approve the plan, they have some kind of shift go around.
Right. And it stays in line with all of these sidewalks and other fences along the perimeter. Did I do all your job for you, Mr. Ricciardi?
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if you have questions.
Yeah.
Any questions for the gentleman before he leaves?
No.
Thank you so much, sir. Council members, we're going to be having a regular diet of SIDs. It's Central Avenue's turn this time out. We're introducing Journal Square. We introduced Exchange Place. So we're going to be seeing them at every meeting from here on till the end of the fiscal year, or their fiscal year. 4 point, are we talking about any of the second reading ordinances?
I just need a 4.5. I like the lawyer representative make sure and city council.
So,
Oh, you did?
Eileen, we have a nice gentleman here from Genova Burns. His name is Gerard Bazzillo. Mr. Bazzillo, why don't you come forward?
Yeah, just a
and
few
sit-
pictures.
Sure. And
Who's here for?
and
He's
Councilman,
here for the last second.
Mr. Paolino will receive him at the hearing on Wednesday
down a second, Gerard, and make yourself comfortable. That's Gerard Pizzillo.
Good evening, everybody. And just Councilman Young, I guess for the record, Gerard Pizzillo, G-E-R-A-R-D, Pizzillo, P-I-Z-Z-I-L-L-O, from Genova Burns, and we represent the sponsor and developer of these plan amendments. So, Councilman Young, just first to your question, Mr. Paolino, who obviously is here at the first reading and presented to you, he will be at the council meeting on Wednesday night. If you have any additional questions, he just couldn't be here tonight, so he asked me to fill in for him.
But do me a favor, would you tell them, I appreciate he provided documentation, very honest. You know, even though he represents the client, but when they show to this council, all the inflation number very close to true, I appreciate that part of it. But my concern is that this is what it is. This one has they're going to put your low income housing, the 50 AMI, okay? Then when you say low income housing is a $34,000 person will make per year, then we call the 50 AMI. So now, average condo unit sale price almost $1 million, 957, which is $1 million. And low-income condo units sale price, this is very exciting. I think that's one of the reasons Councilman James Solomon really happy with that. Low-income condo unit sale price, 1 bedroom, $96,000. And the low-income condo unit sale price, 2 bedroom, $99,000. So I know that's why Councilman James Solomon is so happy with that. So now, but this is the problem. Person who make $34,000 a year after tax, probably $27,000 net income, right?
Right.
And this place, this condo is a condo, so they have a camp charge. In other words, monthly maintenance fee, $250 times 12, almost $3,000. Okay. And because of units, is what they call property tax, real estate tax, around $14,000 a year. So $14,250 approximately, plus $3,000 in maintenance, you know. Then, after he paid all those dollars at the gas and electric, how he can pay mortgage? So in other words, they give to Flaminio State to, sorry, I'm not going to read up. Dennis, give to you? Oh, okay. They even give it to Flaminio State to James Solomon, but size is too big, hard to swallow. So even though they offer 3 condo for 50 MI, people who make a 50 MI not able to make mortgage payment and the plus all those expenses. So now, tell me, other than that, we have a bad experience like Washington Street. We're going to have nobody able to move in. City, they belong to city, so we continue to pay, what are they called? The maintenance.
Camp charges.
Yes. So please explain to me that how they can 50 MI able to afford these units.
And I understand, and you know, I assisted Mr. Paolino in putting all these numbers together. You know, but first, with regards to the camp charges, it's statutorily determined that you cannot distinguish between market and affordable rates when it comes to camp charges. So all of these numbers that we've come up with, we basically used the UAC guidelines and the affordable housing calculator, which was put together by affordable housing professionals.
Yeah.
So that's how we came up with these numbers. Obviously, the 250 was an estimate, but whatever that number is going to be, it's got to be across the board. With regards to the taxes and the assessment of the taxes, I think there is a calculation, and I know Councilman Solomon discussed this afternoon with Mr. Colosa, the assessor, and I know he communicated with Mr. Palino as well, so if you want to
Sure,
just...
so I mean, like, first of all, it's great, none of this would have come up if you hadn't asked these questions. I saw the memo and I was like, you're not gonna be able to make those two things square, but it didn't strike me as right, so I called the tax assessor and I give everybody that copy of the email exchange between us all. But basically, I'm gonna take one pass it down. This is the full exchange, it starts at the top, but basically, what Ed said was that they do actually make the assessment based on a deed restriction. So if you're saying in a purchase price, so if the purchase price is the 96K, they're not going to charge the market rate for the taxes as long as there's a deed restriction in place. So in this case, the taxes would be roughly basically $1,400, $1,500 for the whole year, not for 1 quarter as opposed to the 14K that had been listed. And Ed gave us the spreadsheet that he basically uses to determine the market value and then the taxes, which comes from COA of the Council on Affordable Housing. So the CAM charge is significant, it's not nothing, but the taxes is going to be something like $1,500 a year, and then this email stipulates that the lawyer and the developer would put the deed restriction into the redevelopers agreement that would come associated with this project, and they need a redevelopers agreement to do anything, as well as to get their CO in the end. So last but not least is I have reached out to Garden State Episcopal and a few of the other people that do this to talk about what type of homeownership assistance that any of these, it's 3 condos, that these 3 condo people could get, that they could get, down payment assistance, other things like that, to, even for the 100K to be able to qualify and then be able to afford the condo charges each year.
So just want to make sure that, because this is one of the project James Allen, Councilman James Allen, putting his time and effort. So I don't want to criticize anything like that, but just to make sure that 3 units of 50 AMI must have the delivery, you know what I'm saying? And to make sure that CAM charges, you cannot, make a difference of that, market rate, but just make sure, you know what I'm saying? That people able to move in 50 AMI. That's what I want to know about.
Right.
If you guys promise, and if they're able to do that by number-wise, then I got no problem, okay?
Yeah, okay. It's agreed, those are the right questions to ask, because if we make the units and nothing comes, then there's no point in doing it.
But is that fair? I'm just questioning. Is that fair? The people of Jersey who personally did $1 million house, pay only tax for few $100,000, few dollars.
Well, they can't sell it for $1 million, right? They can't.
Yeah.
That they have a deed restriction. They can only sell it as an affordable house to somebody else if they want to leave.
Who qualifies?
So it's really only worth. It's worth more than that because you're in a great neighborhood, but it's.
And also, that is a good part and the bad part. Because the ownership, the home ownership is not just living space. In the United States, every homeowner is their first investment for the future, financial investment. So if we too restricted the price of affordable house you sell, it's not right things for the people who live in this country, because as I say, own house is the first financial investment in their future. So I hope the price is not strict too much, you know what I'm saying? All right, as long as you just make sure that.
So how long is the affordability restriction?
30 years.
Is that set by, or how's that
I think
set?
it's following the COA. Housing and mortgage financing, they have to run concurrently with whatever aid they might get.
So just to make sure, if I find the education, I'm going to ask them Wednesday. So somebody's.
If I
Somebody buys that
if I may,
after 30 years, someone paying.
if I may, it's just, it's NJAC 5:80-26.5, which is Uniform Housing Affordability Controls.
Is that reference to the emails?
It's not, but that's the 30-year, that's what a 30 years calls.
Can you send me that,
I wouldn't want to do
So, and also another one I like to
She pays.
address the city council. When they build the 22 more units, means that $1 million, market-wise, they get their own $22 million more. And they're going to be contribute $3 million for 3 units minus, and also they're gonna contribute to another infrastructure, $1.1 million.
Right.
So when we look at it, what we get and what they get almost $18 million, the benefit out of this deal. In the meantime, we of City of Jersey and the people of Jersey maybe less than $4 million. You know what I'm saying?
That doesn't factor in cost. Yes, they sell it for $1 million, but they have all the costs associated.
Yes. So when I say that total market value is that asset, the property value, they increase $22 million. They give away some $4 million. Still, they get $18 million benefit of this deal. So that's why the people say 20% affordable housing possible. You know, so what we get, 3 units, we get very, very minimum. I think Councilman James, I'm going to give you a big favor for you guys.
But, well,
make sure that
Michael, I sat literally on the numbers with this and NW, went back and forth, and the memo that you have says that literally the benefit is $200,000 to $300,000.
Saying some council person got a favor.
So, I mean, it's
wrong.
And I just, again, it's the challenge that we have here. I wish that literally there was no zoning on this piece of land. And so we could go to these guys and say, you want to build anything, you got to do these 4 things. But they can build 4 stories and not give us anything. And that's the reality. Negotiations are about leverage. And so if I demanded, if I said to them, I can guarantee, if I said to them, you must build 20% affordable, no exceptions, nothing else, what they would say is 2 things. They would say, okay, give me 10 stories to make it work. Or they would say, we're going to just build 4 stories. And if I went to my community and I said, well, I want 10 stories, every single other building in that community is 4 or 5 stories. Everything else. So they would say, there's no way we accept 10 stories. So now, so the question is how much value we're getting. I went through the numbers and I feel confident in saying that this is a fair deal. The city's getting a very, very good amount, and the developer's getting an amount that makes it, they wouldn't do it if they didn't get something else.
And you're not getting any favors.
I'm not getting anything.
Yeah, no, I'm just
No, I know that, but I think
You said you're getting a favor.
So now, bonus we give to actually increase to 25%, and the density we give to 47% increase, and the parking actually 30% decrease than what we're supposed to do, and the maximum building coverage we increase to 30%. So if you add all this value, come out $22 million.
Okay.
And especially, I don't know, when you have the parking, when you have 30% decrease, I don't know, it's going to be okay.
Okay.
My understanding is the parking is the same.
No, parking is no.
Yeah.
One
Right,
point
yeah, I think the
4.7.
parking complies with the plan. I don't have the.
I think it remains at the
proposed plan in
No,
front of
You
me.
can beat Gene up on
It
this.
was all 0.7.
No, it was 1 to 1, and now down to 0.7.
For the bonus?
Yes. That's one of the bonus packages that.
You can beat Gene Palino up on
Okay.
Wednesday when he comes.
So,
I don't see that in the changes, but we can talk about it offline.
yeah, why don't you guys talk about it
Maximum
offline?
building.
There's nothing new.
Parking.
There's nothing new here.
0.7
Thank
space
you,
per
Council
building.
President. Shall I move on, sir?
Moving on.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I'll take the resolutions from the top. Thank you, Gerard.
They have a nice.
Resolutions from the top. Until we adopt our budget,
I will look.
at every meeting, we're going to have an emergency temporary appropriation. 10B, 10.2 is a resolution authorizing the circulation of the preliminary official statement and final official statement in connection with the sale of the city's bond anticipation notes, Series 2019 B, bond anticipation notes, Series 2019 C, and Special Emergency Note Series 2009D, and approving a continuing disclosure certificate with respect to said notes of the city and authorizing and/or ratifying other actions in connection therewith.
Can we have an officer statement added to people Wednesday?
What's that?
What?
Officer statement, because
Officer statement?
Official statement.
it's missing.
POS, it's called a POS.
Can't you give those?
Can you give him a POS?
No, it's not.
Ryan, can you give him a POS on Wednesday?
Folks, have one conversation, please. There's a request for a POS.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna get the
Yeah,
POS.
yeah.
Already present, will you provide this for us?
Was that 10-2?
Yes, sir.
Can you,
We'll get the POS out to everyone.
but not, I didn't need a POS, can someone explain what's happening here?
This
I
is-
read it, I didn't understand.
This is done every time after we pass a capital improvement ordinance.
Sure.
We pass the capital improvement ordinance, now we're gonna go out into the market, and we're gonna prepare a preliminary official statement.
This is refinance.
Yeah,
This is
refinancing.
This is refinancing.
But this is only the statement, which has to get approved before we approve the
Right.
capital.
But
So,
these are all,
yeah, I don't know why we do this by resolution, but it's literally just like the
well,
description.
the
of this.
ordinances authorize the indebtedness, and this is how we go out into the market.
We're refinancing existing notes.
Yeah,
Correct?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
we get a better rate.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's the.
Right, and the state won't allow us to do it unless we appreciate a certain savings, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So just we need a copy of POS.
yeah.
All
Yeah,
right, 10-3 and 10-4, you'll be abstaining, therefore.
Hold on, we're done with that too?
Yeah, that's.
Okay, so
This is just about the statement that goes along with the refinancing. It's not-
could I get information about what's being refinanced? So the notes that are being refinanced,
In there? Yeah. It should say, it should
so the
say.
2019 B and C or C and D notes are being, could I get what that is? And just,
We'll get that for you.
Yeah, we'll get it.
what we're refunding with those notes? That's what I
Sure.
Okay.
All right,
And whether those projects are complete, I guess, or not. I assume they're not. 2019 B, 2019 C,
Yeah,
and 2019 D, special emergency.
Sure.
But if I can get that.
I have some, yeah, sure.
okay, 3 and 4, we alluded to earlier. This is to wrap up the Central Avenue SIDS budget and assessment roll. Remember to abstain on Wednesday, Councilman Yun. 5, we're introducing the Journal Square Special Improvement District budget and assessment roll. 6, we're authorizing the VA to execute a discharge of mortgage for property at 36 Eastern Parkway. 7, we're honoring Reverend Joseph L. Jones Sr. for his decades of service at Monumental Baptist Church. 8 is a resolution commemorating the life of First Lady Diane Baker Byrd. 9, a resolution recognizing A. Curtis Farrell for his contributions to the 37th Annual McDonald's Gospel Fest. 10 is a resolution honoring the centennial of the Heights Branch Library. 11 is a resolution of the council declaring the first Friday in June to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day. Z12, a resolution authorizing the purchasing agent to sell various impounded motor vehicles at public auction. 13 is we're canceling a portion of 2018 real estate taxes.
I'm sorry, let me just, don't we normally do these sales as ordinances? Or
What's that, sir?
the sale of vehicles?
No, sir. This resolution is on 4 or 5 times a year, sir. 13 is canceling a portion of 2018 real estate taxes due to an erroneous assessment on block 803, lot 50. 14 was done. 15 is an amendment to the settlement agreement in the actions entitled City of Jersey City v. Washington Commons.
Just after we settle this, what happens? Assuming we agree.
Well, did you get the memo that was circulated?
I did, yeah.
We will, the city will then, assume full possession and will perform the work to
And then we sell them.
bring them up to speed and so.
And how many are we selling?
I think there were
There were 6 or 7 and 2 of,
I think there were 2 additions here.
2 of them that are owned by the property owner. He had to do certain improvements to them before we could sell any of them, and we're just gonna do
We're gonna
it.
take ownership, do
Yeah.
the improvements, and then
Yeah,
sell them,
right.
and then that money goes to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, right?
I don't think the funds were deed restricted at all, actually.
I don't think they were. I can find out for you.
Okay, yeah, if you could, that'd be great. I remembered that conversation, but that'd be great.
So we're paying for the improvements?
No, they are paying.
We're doing
us
They're
to
paying
do
us
the
to do it,
improvements,
yeah.
rather than us wait for them.
Right. All right,
So are we going out to bid for that, to do the improvements, or are we doing that?
We're gonna do it through our regular contracting for, like, if it was a city building to do the improvements, so yeah, it depends on the vendors and what's needed. I don't remember exactly what we needed to do.
That's fine.
This is $10,000, that compensates for what?
I think what needs to be done is not extensive, it just needs to be done. And the previous owner was just simply not doing this.
Right, but I mean, what is this 10,000, is paying for our, do we have a lawyer involved in this, or?
Right, this was negotiated along with this.
Was it negotiated outside attorneys, or?
No, this goes to the city to make the city whole for materials and labor that will be expended physically bringing these units up to.
So my question is, should we have attorneys to be hired outside to negotiate this? Are they compensating us for our attorneys? Are they compensating us for the maintenance fees that we've paid over the years for this property that we've held on to? Are they doing any of that?
No, it was not part of the agreement.
It's not, we're not going to get any of that back.
No.
Just through the sale.
if we paid it. If we paid it.
We paid maintenance.
This settlement, this has been going on for a long time. This is a way to
And
get
that
this.
was a lot of the reason why we went to accelerate it. And
Yeah, just trying to get these things sold, because the longer we sit on it, the more
I
money we
agree.
spend on it, so.
But we settled this before, like we had settled in place before.
It's an amendment to the settlement.
I know. The settlement didn't settle.
I mean, it's an interesting question. I mean, could we just ask, I mean, I understand the need to move forward, but I mean, could we just ask, we don't have to talk about it, but just offline before the meeting on Wednesday, of why we're not able to at least recoup since the 2017 settlement, any of the condo fees we would have paid as a city, because they didn't seem to do what they were supposed to do.
15 what?
Yeah, I mean, I think I cannot really discuss, if I did know what the meats and bounds of the settlement discussions were, as far as the details go, I can try to find out, talk to you about it offline.
Okay. 18, we're accepting a grant from the USA Swimming Foundation for the Department of Recreation. We did 19 through 23, 24 is ratifying a contract awarded by the county clerk to Royal Printing Service for printing official election machine and sample ballots with the primary election to be held on June 4th. That comes out of my office. 25 was done. 26 is a resolution of the Council of the City of Jersey City authorizing the award of a services agreement to yoga instructor Carol Lester.
We did.
Oh, I'm sorry. 27 and 28 were done. 29, contract with Periscope Holdings for online bidding services through the Purchasing Solutions Alliance Cooperative for the Division of Administration, Department of Administration, Division of Purchasing. 30 through 34 were done.
29, Brian, is this Vincent? Or is this?
This is Vincent, yeah, Periscope is.
Where are we on the sort of the conversation and questions around, like, you know, convincing, give us information on the, you know, NWBE and contractors, right, that's the acronym.
Yeah.
And, you know, when a bid is over, what can they provide out on that stuff?
Yeah, some of that information is not, we legally can't request some of that information through there, but some of it we do have, and we do compile it manually through purchasing. They keep that information.
And were we trying to get to the point where this would be, I mean, I understand we can either require, or these can optionally ask for.
Yeah.
Were we working to kind of automate that, and then to produce these reports?
Yeah. We're still a little while away from the full electronic submission and acceptance of responses. We're working on it, though. I don't have a timeline on it right now.
Is there a project manager on it?
Peter,
Peter?
purchasing, yeah.
Can we ask Peter for an update before Wednesday, just so we understand where that is?
Sure.
I know for some constituents, it's a big
He's here half the night.
I know. For some of them, it's a big issue.
Sure.
Thanks.
Okay, we did 35, 36, 37. 38 is a professional services agreement with Colombo, Renaud, and Diabolonio to represent police officer Samuel Torres in the matter of Adnan Hyder via the City of Jersey City. 39 is renewal and amendment of a professional services agreement with Darwin Kamagala of the law firm of Camignola and Ricciardi, to represent former Chief of Police Robert Troy and other municipal employees in the matter of John Astria, Valerie Montone, via the city of Jersey
How
City.
many hundreds of thousands of dollars has this been going on?
We did 40 and 41. 42 is waiving the 20 days on the parking spots for the disabled. 43, I got a missive from the state of New Jersey that I needed a resolution to do something I've been doing for 30 years, and it's my responsibility by statute. Only Newark and myself are required to be the registrars, so I'm going to appease them and ask you to appoint me to a job I've been doing for 30 years as a local registrar.
So just, I want to ask that the 1039,
I thought you were going to
1039.
fire me. I was hoping.
No, you don't have a 1049.
No, 1039. So now, since 2009 till almost 10 years, we spend for the lawyers for $782,000.
Yes.
It's a lot of money.
Sure is.
Do you have any signs gonna be keep going like this? What is?
Yeah, it's, I mean, listen. I mean, it's still active, it's still in the appellate phase. We updated you guys about a couple months ago in that closed session that we had. Again, it is still going on, it's still in the appellate phase. The judiciary is down, the federal judiciary is down a number of judges right now. So things are not moving as fast as we would like. So,
That is the biggest joke.
Okay.
782.
44 is an agreement with the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs for the Main Street program on Monticello Avenue. We did 45. 46 is a cooperative agreement with the Jersey City Board of Ed regarding the public use of parking lots at PS 24 and PS 28. What does this do?
Yes, this is a parking pilot program that we've been working on with the Board of Ed, myself, and the business administrator. And it allows for resident parking in school parking lots at 24 and 28 school on evenings and on weekends. 24 and 28 were picked also because of their proximity to commercial corridors. And if the pilot works as well as we think it's going to, we'll be able to roll it out across the city. We have to pass a resolution and then send it over to the Board of Ed for their final approval, but the superintendent has signed off. And we're still working on the payment structure. We're going to be starting with Park Mobile, and then, like, as we see what the glitches are, we'll decide if we want to stick with that or move to a permitting process.
And so who's gonna pay?
The residents.
And anyone who wants to park there overnight would essentially like pay a nightly park mobile rate on their app or calling a number.
Who's picking up the car in the morning at 6?
Well, is
So,
that,
yeah, our parking enforcement, yep, we're gonna have people dedicated to reviewing and telling if we need to.
so weekend is Friday, Saturday, right? Sunday is the beginning of the week, so what are we doing there?
So every school day in the morning at 6 a.m. or whatever time it is, we're gonna have someone go through, and if there's a car there, we're gonna tell them, that's it.
So.
But we're also gonna start over the summer, so we're thinking that there will be less of an issue, and just to make sure we get the rhythm down before school starts.
So one of the problems that we tried that the years ago in the PS20 schools, the problem is that 6 a.m. was the problem.
Well, we're gonna give it a shot.
Or
Yeah.
you could double park
There was
on
a
your street or
problem.
park in front of the fire hydrant and get a ticket. You don't have to do it, but it's, it's something we're gonna try that will help alleviate some of the parking issues
Yes.
around the city and also give a little bit of money to the schools.
I think it's a good thing.
So if we got a little bit more.
I just believe we better have a tow truck at 6 a.m.
All right, would someone sing the sweet song?
Exactly.
At 9:41, by acclamation with only Councilperson Waterman absent.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Good night. Turn off the camera. We're out of here.
I'm open.
By Prince Harry, who made it second.
I'll be there 6 a.m.